A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
It's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. Wing come up the inside. McLaughlin gets it to They run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champion's done the job. They're all gone. They're all gone. Tander's off. McLaughlin's off. Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Well, last round at Sebring, Matt Webb sent the cat amongst the pigeons, and as of now, up to 7 or 8 drivers can theoretically win the GT3 title. We've got 3 rounds to go, and here we are for round 7 at Spa-Francorchamps. Good evening and welcome, everybody. Your ARW commentary team and your short shift podcast team in the house. At the moment we are -1 member, but it's Nether here from ARW. Bagsy hopefully be along shortly. Matt Williams from Short Shift is also here. So Matt, good evening.
Thanks Nether, good to be here.
Certainly great to be here. We got 3 rounds to go in this championship, and this circuit is a doozy. It is going to offer up everything tonight, but before we get into the circuit, we probably need to take a bit of a look at the points, because as we just alluded to, in theory, or mathematically, up to 8 drivers can win, or 8 or 9 drivers can win this title, but in theory, it's probably only really the top 7 that are in with a shot, but it's very, very tight.
Yeah, we've got the top 2, Lewis Wedding and Greg Nangle. They are tied on 60 points apiece. In 3rd place, we've got Baker, who was absent last time at Sebring. He's on 57 points. Brock Harvey is in 4th place with 56. He is tied on points with Stairs, who won't be here tonight, unfortunately. And 6th place, we've got Heath Dixon, another one who won't be here tonight, but he is on 54 points. Matthew Schwass in the Ferrari 488 is on 47 points. Jamie Snow, who made his comeback last time, he is on 35 points in 8th place. He's followed by Aaron Thomas, who is another one making a comeback tonight, actually. He is in 9th place on 33. And rounding out the top 10, we've got Brenton Foley on 30 points in the Ferrari 488.
And what's also worth mentioning there too is that 7 out of those top 10 guys are all Pro B runners. Wedding, the only Pro A runner on top, and Jamie Snow and Aaron Thomas, as you said, they have had a little bit of a period of absence. They're Pro A, but they're a bit further down the rankings, so they're just looking to pick up some points. Matt, in theory,
looking at the rankings actually on the points, we've got Stairs, who's tied for 4th place. He doesn't have a ranking at this point in time, but that would be because this is the only series he runs in.
That is correct. And as we spoke about before, we have one hell of a circuit. Most of you know this circuit, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. Popular with the Formula One scene, plenty of change over the years. 19 turns, 7-kilometre circuit. We estimate we're going to get 53 laps tonight, and do not adjust your set. The time there is correct. This is a 2-hour endurance race, 120 minutes. Normally we get an 80-minute run, but tonight we are doing a full 2 hours. So going to test not only the drivers' mental fatigue and their skill, but it's probably also going to test the commentator pit stop capability as well if we can go the distance. So
well, that's why we've increased the warm-up session before the race.
to make sure we can get the pit stops in. A couple of other points to note. There have been a couple of balance of performance changes. So the Aston Martin has gained 20 kilos, the Nissan 30 kilos, and the Lambo has lost 20 kilos. So a little bit of change from the last round, where the balance of performance certainly played a leading hand, shall we say, in possibly deciding that race. Well, we are now into qualifying, but it says on here qualifying for an hour, but that somehow I don't believe that is right.
Ignore that. I made a mistake when I was setting up the server, as I had some technical issues and was rushing when I did it, but that will end after 15 minutes.
Alright, we will keep an eye on that. Here's Greg Turra. So he's one of about half a dozen cars that are on the circuit at the moment. Nobody on a flying lap, so to speak. They're all on out laps, just finding their feet. In this Mercedes-Benz, we expect to be rather quick in a straight line tonight. There are plenty of straights where that power will come to the fore. That being said, though, Lewis Wedding in the Lamborghini Huracan was top of the timesheets with a 2:17.6, I believe it was, in practice, but he wasn't top by very much. He was very closely followed by another couple of guys, so they might throw down the gauntlet to him in this evening's race.
Yeah, the Mercedes is incredible down the straights, but its biggest issue, as usual, is it has a fair bit of understeer to it. So coming through Eau Rouge, where you really do want to maximise your run on the Camel Straight, it is struggling a little bit, but it does have that edge at the top end, but it would benefit greatly if it could get there a little bit faster.
Oh, we just lost Robert Bachmeier. We were just watching him come across the line there, and that's the reason why he's gone off at the final turn. So we're just watching him just curiously, just to see if he was going to set our first representative time, but we're actually going to try and see. Here's Big Dog. So Big Dog is, by all reported purposes, one hell of a karting driver, and making the graduation, as we like to call it, from the real world to the sim world.
I expect to see, obviously not straight away, he is off to a great start with his sim racing, but I do expect to see him in the coming weeks and months through Season 2. He'll progress a long way, I think.
And he's gone a little bit wide there at the top of Eau Rouge as he runs up onto the Camel Straight. One of two drivers, new drivers, this race to be deciding to take on the challenge of driving the Cadillac, as he pulls over there and actually lets Aaron Thomas through. So I don't think that's going to be a truly representative time, but nonetheless we wait for the first real laps turned in anger to be posted. And that is quite a stunning looking car, the Cadillac. Just even in the base guest livery, it looks rather nice. Brock Harvey actually toyed with the idea of the Cadillac, but ultimately settled on the Aston Martin.
I'm not too sure why he did make that decision in the end. I think it was mainly a handling decision, but the Cadillac, by all reports, does have one hell of a power plant underneath the bonnet. So on a track like this, look to those cars down the Camel Straight, and they could be a bit of a dark horse, not so much up the front of the field with guys like Lewis Wedding and Andy Simpson around, but they will, I think, if they can keep them on the track, make quite an appearance towards the top 10, and maybe better.
We'll watch that with interest. Like I said, we've only got two of them in the field tonight in the hands of Big Dog and Robert Bachmeier. So Big Dog's just taking it quietly on this outlap, just probably wants to get some sort of a time on the board given this first race weekend, but he's gone very, very wide there at Stavelot and has clouded the wall. So that's turn 15 where he's gone off, and he will ultimately have to restart that lap again. Let's see if we can find anybody on the circuit who's actually going to post a time for us. And
we haven't actually got one set yet, which
no, we haven't got one
is a
set.
testament to the challenge it is driving around this track, mainly in that middle sector.
That's right. Most of the cars are out on circuit at the moment. Thankfully, this is a big circuit, so plenty of room. As we watch Lewis Wedding now, we'll see if we can get an onboard from Wedding's car. Well, here is from the side cam. Let's go with the nose cam. See it very, very low to the ground. Actual fact, we'll go to the side cam. Matt Webb's posted the first time on the board at 2:16.2. You can see in the top left-hand corner there. But let's follow Wedding on a lap down to the first turn. Last source, very close to the wall there. I'm not sure if he gave it a little bit of a rub on the way through, but it certainly was very, very close. As he now has the run down to Radion and Eau Rouge, this famous sequence of corners that has delivered so much over the years. Just feather the throttle a little bit just to balance it nicely to get it up the hill. And he pulled a gear halfway through the hill as well, and now onto the Camel Straight, heading down to the Lacombe series of corners 7, 8 and 9. Big top end speed there. You can see 3/10 off the top time set so far, Lewis Wedding through Sector 1. As the times slowly start to come in.
Yeah, we've got a few other drivers that have got under the 36 barrier for the first sector. We've got Andy Simpson has done a 35.995, and he is just no, sorry, that's Anthony Graham's just finished his lap. He did a 35.885 through that first sector.
Wedding negotiates turn 11, and now coming down to Puon corner, turn 12. Let's see how much speed he carries through here. Back one notch on the gears. Lovely line.
forgive me if I'm a bit all over the place during this session. I'm having to do server admin as well as commentate, so
Yes, we'll
my apologies if I do get anything wrong.
we'll bring we'll bring the viewers up to speed on what's happening in that little situation when we get to the warm-up, because there is a small start procedure change tonight, or restart procedure change tonight.
We have Greg Turrer and Jamie Snow. They've both gone very quickly through the first sector. Greg Turrer with a 35.7 and Jamie Snow with a 35.5 through that first sector, which is a couple tenths up on what anyone else has managed there yet, so he is one to watch on this lap.
We'll keep an eye on that. We're just going to stay with Wedding for the moment because he's coming up to the last couple of turns, the chicane, or the last two turns. The chicane here turns, it's, on my map it's 19 and 20. He maintained his 3/10 gap all the way through the second sector as well, but let's see what he delivers when he gets to the line. He's going to be in the 16s, and he goes third. In actual fact, not by... he actually gained some time in the last sector there, Wedding, so great job. And it closes up the gap rather nicely at the top, with the man on screen, Matt Webb, being the provisional pole sitter and last round's race winner at Sebring, as he's actually backing out of it now, so that lap appears to be gone. Probably just want to give himself a bit of a gap till there's another Nissan ahead of him that he was catching rather quickly, so probably gear himself up for another shot here.
Aaron Thomas has got his comeback underway quite well. He's in 6th place in the minute, which is, in this field, is very good, especially when you haven't been racing for quite a while. He's in front of Greg Nangle, who was the Formula 3 champion as of 7 days ago.
Speaking of comebacks, this man made his comeback at Sebring, Jamie Snow, but it didn't go according to plan, unfortunately. Went a lap down early through some technical glitches, and really was never able to recover from that point, given Sebring is such, like Spa is such a huge circuit.
Yeah, with the revised starting procedure for this round, we should have that issue taken care of now. If it does show up, I'd be very surprised. And now it's more of an issue on safety car restarts, but we'll get into that a bit later.
We certainly will. We'll get into that in the warm-up, and also should the event occur. But Jamie must have made a bit of an error somewhere around that previous lap, because he's on an out lap right now. He was one to watch. We've got 12 times in the books so far. We've got 18 runners in tonight's race. Brenton Foley and Brock Harvey and Anthony Graham, the only men not currently out on track, but we've still got times yet to be set from Boak, Davies, actually I think, we've got a couple of, they're coming quick and fast now, so Davies, Big Dog, Glenn Miles and Brenton Foley, the only drivers yet to set a time. Last time we checked, Foley had spent limited track time, so hopefully he'll be on track shortly, otherwise he may be opting to start from the back.
You may notice that Dwayne Davies is driving in Nissan for this round. That is because the McLaren, which he normally drives, is, and this is the official word that I got on the subject, is the McLaren is in the shop.
McLaren's in the shop being repaired.
A typical English car.
Well,
had to get that one in there, didn't I?
Well, we won't digress, but we won't digress too much, but here's Nangle in the 888 numbered Mercedes-Benz, the recently crowned F3 champion last weekend. He did it in style. It was after the first race, he had it all at Albert Park, he had it all sewn up, and it was just a formality walk home for race number 2. But he's still got a job to do here, Greg. He's right in the thick of it with respect to the title race for GT3 as well. And the professor, as they like to call him, applying his trade. And a very, very quick Sector 1 time there. 2/10 off the top time, but gaining 3/10 off his own PB as you watch him negotiate turns 7, 8 and 9. Now head down the hill to turn 10.
We've got Lewis Wedding and Andy Simpson both on hot laps at the moment through the first sector.
So
keep an eye on the timing for them.
They're just behind Nangle And
yeah, those are two you'd very much expect to go straight to the top once they do get clean laps in.
yeah, Andy Simpson has shown his hand rather nicely in the other series that he runs. I believe he in the Super Series is quite good, and he did set some blistering times in F3. He's also in Supercars, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but Andy Simpson definitely has shown him a nice turn of speed since he's joined the series.
Yeah, it's quite worrying because for Season 2 he's signed up for the LMP2 in the WEC Championship, which of course GT3 is merging with, and given I'm also driving LMP2, I could say I've been a little bit more comfortable going into a championship before.
I was going to say, you have a right to be nervous. But look at that, the Mercedes through the technical section, Sector 2 of the lap, 1.3 seconds down on the top time, but Greg's 7/10 up on his own PB. And that would put him just across Brock Harvey.
But Andy Simpson has done a 1 minute .095 through the second sector, which is an incredible time. He's significantly up on any other one that's on my screen at the moment as he goes to the top at 2:16.235.
Yeah, so he's gone ahead by a tenth of a second while we were watching Greg. So that's knocked Greg down a peg, but if he maintains his pace...
He's got Lewis just under 200ths of a second behind him, and Matt Webb only 300ths behind. So that's the top three very close here.
They certainly are. We were watching Greg Nangle. He's just managed to pip Brock Harvey again as we see Lewis Wedding come out in back of shot as we cycle through to have a look at Wedding. So there, he made a mistake on that previous lap. But if we have a look at the pole sitter, Andy Simpson, there he is. He's sat up in the pits at the moment. But you were right. Have a look at the gap between the top three on your screen there. Simpson with a 2:16.235, Wedding a 2:16.253, and Webb a 2:16.266. And Anthony Graham not that far away either with the 2:16.440. So the top four just covered by a mere 2/10. So very, very tight. And then there's a bit of daylight back.
All within a quarter of a second. It's very competitive out here today, and you do expect that to an extent from a track like this one, because it does have a bit of everything. It's got the technical sector 2 and the wide open first sector and final sector with that final chicane. It brings out the best and worst in all cars and drivers, I think, and it's one of my favourite tracks actually for testing different cars at, because it exploits everything positive and negative about a car.
Favourite track of many drivers, not just yourself, Matt. Favourite track of mine to watch, not so much from a point of view when I was racing, because I always seem to have a good first sector and a good last sector, but could never hook it up through the middle sector. But that's just probably to do with the way I like to drive, but I'd always lose time hand over fist.
My personal favourite to drive around would be Mugello. It's that nice high speed flowing type of track, which does work quite well for how I like to drive a car.
Well, even though Wedding's on an outlap as we watch him round the last turn 16 and up the hill, he's got Matt Webb behind him. I think it was Matt Webb, and he was setting a great sector one time and actually lets him go there. But let's see if we can just tune in to Matt Webb. There he is. So he had a really good sector one time. Sector 2 wasn't so flash, but let's see if he can hook it up through sector 3. Trying everything to gain a little millimetre or two of road there. Oh, just a little bit of tail slide through first part of the chicane, and now needs to put the power down hard and straight run to the line. Is he going to dive into 2:16s again? He does, but he only improves his PB by a handful of milliseconds, or actually a handful of thousandths of a second, as Wedding now commences his lap. Now where's Andy Simpson? Andy Simpson is on the track as well, so Andy Simpson's coming around the back part of the circuit. He's just coming through Puon corner now. So he's about half a lap behind Wedding on the track. As Wedding flies it over the top of Eau Rouge. Magnificent looking thing as the Lamborghini now heads down the Kemmel Straight. Let's see what the Sector 1 time is going to be. But Wedding wringing the neck of that car and not seeing any gain by doing so. He's actually 3/10 off his own PB, but still 2.5 off the Sector 1 time. But let's see if he can make it up in the middle sector, because that's where Wedding seems to be able to make the car, as we like to call it, dance. He seems to be able to get it, have it on rails through this middle sector. He loves the technical stuff. As we said before, the Lamborghini lightened by 20 kilos from the last time out at Sebring, where the balance of performance really kicked it up a notch and really mixed up the results a little bit. So it's looking like it's going to be a rather tight affair at the front tonight.
And just for anybody watching, the session will end when Brock Harvey completes the lap he's on currently. With the timing issue, I had to go silent for a second there and really concentrate on my track map.
Yep, so Brock Harvey is coming through Puon corner at the moment, so he's a little bit behind Lewis Wedding. So these guys have only got a handful of... These guys have only got a handful of minutes left to post their time, so really Wedding is the only one that can really upset the apple cart here as he comes through Blanchimont and now through the last couple of corners as our host broadcaster gives us a little bit of drama.
And Brock's gone back to the pits, so it will be when Lewis finishes his lap.
Yep. Well, Wedding's actually had an off, so that puts pay dirt to any hope of that. But we thought it was some host broadcast issues, and it was. Let's see if there's anybody else on track that can actually set time. So Dwayne Davies in the Nissan is currently 11th, trying to get round to finish his lap. But
they've only got 15 seconds remaining now before I advance the session.
Yep, so it doesn't look like these guys are going to improve their time, but Big Dog did not set a time, and neither did Brenton Foley. So those guys are going to start rear of grid, and we've actually lost someone in between the session starting and the session about to draw to a close. So we're down to 17 runners.
We've got Johnny, because we have a closed qualifying session here. We've got Johnny and a couple others that will be joining us during the warm-up session.
Well, speaking of the devil, the warm-up session has now ticked over.
Just another note for anybody watching, this is a 2-hour race, but the timer will be set to 2 hours and 3 minutes due to the new starting procedure. It's a manual rolling start, so we're effectively doing a standing start, but with a speed limit for the first lap as the leader takes the field around.
And I believe that's to do with some safety car issues, I think, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, that was the number of penalties the game was handing out to people for going too early during the race start. So by doing it this way, we effectively remove any chance of that issue happening. And the green flag will be called manually, etc., just to ensure it's a smoother start to the race.
Well, at least we've got procedures in place, and a lot of the Germans like procedures as the 15-minute warm-up clock ticks down. Now, I heard you saying earlier, Matt, it's going to be a 7-minute warm-up. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so we will keep an eye on that with vested interest. So, your results from qualifying, we didn't quite catch it, but it was Andy Simpson from Lewis Wedding and Matt Webb your top three in qualifying. And just to run down the order, newcomers Anthony Graham posted the 4th quickest time. Then comes Jamie...
Apparently I've got the timer wrong for warm-up too.
And then we've got Jamie Snow, Greg Tara, Aaron Thomas on his return in the BMW Z4, posting a very respectable 7th time. Nangle in 8th, Harvey in 9th, and Philip Boak rounds out your top 10 for qualifying. So a little bit of a drama, I guess, with the timer being set for a bit longer than it should, meant we didn't get a chance to talk about the times that were coming in and who could advance and who couldn't and didn't advance because we weren't able to keep tabs on it all that well. But let's talk about the new starting procedures, Matt. So the new procedures in general. You've alluded to the rolling starts, so there's not going to be a safety car. There's going to be a standing start. The leader will bring the field around the circuit to the green flag, which will be called manually, and then the field will be off. So the 3-minute extra allotment is for the field to get around, and given it's a 2-minute lap, 3 minutes is probably appropriate. But let's talk about the safety.
It's to allow that slower lap to be done to start the race, as we are no longer doing the safety car lap.
Yep. Well, let's talk about the safety car, because the safety car still plays a vital role in this. Should it actually be called, there is a restart procedure, and it has to do with the speed limitations.
Yes, because of the nature of the final chicane and the start-finish straight on this track, there's a speed limit set through the final sector of, I'm not even sure what it was, 50 kilometres an hour, to ensure that the safety car can get back into the pits and park itself up before the field goes, because we've found we're having issues with the game handing out penalties because the field would go before it was actually given a green flag, which it gets when the safety car is stopped in the pits. So by enforcing a speed limit, it guarantees that the safety car will be back in time, because any faster and you will cross the line before the safety car gets there, and therefore the game will hand out penalties.
Very good.
Which is probably much more complicated to say than the issue itself actually is.
Well, we will forgive the audience if you need to disappear off to sort some of these incidents out should they occur during the race. We certainly hope that they don't happen, but they may happen from time to time. Well, there's a bit of a lull in proceedings at the moment, Matt. We've got no drivers currently out on the track, and we're waiting for the clock to tick over. I believe it's got to tick down to about 5 minutes before we will see.
I'll advance it once it gets to 8 minutes.
Once it gets to 8 minutes.
The session was meant to be 7 minutes, so 15 minutes. It was set up because I don't know what I'm doing.
Very good. Now, I believe we have our other commentator has finally made his way from the hospitality suite, if it looks correct, and that's Bagsy. Bagsy, are you with us finally?
Yep, I'm here.
You have made it. I think you've made it. How was the hospitality, more importantly?
Not too bad. I was actually commuting still. My commute has recently increased and makes me a bit marginal getting back from work, unfortunately. So I was listening in on the coverage on the way home. So glad to have made it though, just in time.
Beautiful. So get yourself all set up, and you haven't missed very much. The only thing you've missed is a very, very tight scrap for pole between Andy Simpson, Lewis Wedding and Matt Webb, and they were separated by only a couple of hundredths of a second. So it's very, very tight at the top, as it is very, very tight at the top in the championship standings as well. We've got about 2 minutes remaining before the race begins, and as we alluded to earlier, a couple of key drivers in the points picture, or the standings picture, not present tonight. So Baker missing for second consecutive race in a row, and Stairs, who was right up there tied with Brock Harvey as well, also missing, and Heath Dixon, who was the points leader very, very early in the piece, and he was actually the round one victor at Bathurst in the other 2-hour event that was held. He's missing as well. So the potential to shake up the points is there, especially with the likes of Matt Webb and Andy Simpson being right up there to challenge Lewis Wedding. Potentially it could swing the balance of points in Wedding's favour, or it could take off some points that he may otherwise be entitled to should he end up, say, finishing third, and that means that the guys behind will still be within striking distance of him with 2 rounds to go. So we've only got tonight's race, and we've got, I believe we've got Road Atlanta, I think, is coming up, if that's if I'm correct there, Matt, and then there's one more after that.
Yeah, Laguna
Seca's the final round. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the revised scheduling. There's a lot of things were done rather hastily towards the end, and as we've advanced through to season 2 a bit earlier. But just a quick update: we are letting the warm-up session go till 5 minutes remaining, as the drivers had a briefing on the new race start and safety car procedure. So we just allowed them a little bit longer so they can go for a personal pit stop.
Yeah, we want everyone to be on the same page, so it's a good thing they gave them a bit of extra time.
No, that's excellent. So,
yeah, they took about 5 minutes with the briefing, so we're just giving them an extra few minutes to do what they need to do to get ready for the race, and we'll be underway in about 3 minutes.
It's going to be interesting looking at the because I've just come in and I've got myself up to speed and all the points and everything so far, but because 3 of the top 4 at the moment are people who aren't really in with a shout in the championship at the moment, it's going to be quite interesting to see how they shake up the points, because Andy Simpson, Matt Webb and Anthony Graham haven't raced at all in this series. So with their good performance in qualifying, they're going to be able to shake it up quite a bit. They're people in between Lewis Wedding and Greg Nangle, which Greg Nangle doesn't want.
No, that's exactly right. With Wedding and Nangle being tied at the top on the point standings, Baker missing, Stairs missing, Brock Harvey here and Heath Dixon missing, so the opportunity, as we said, is there for some of these guys who are in the title fight, but by virtue of the other races not being here tonight, can make a break and score some decent points, push themselves toward the top end of the field. But that being said, if some of the guys ahead of them decide to get in on the act and take away some of those larger points scoring positions for, say, first, second and third, the points that for the guys that are here tonight, they may not gain significant enough points and still be within, a very, very small striking distance of the gentlemen who are not here tonight to catch up with the remaining 2 rounds. As we said at the start of the program, mathematically, there's 9 guys in the top 10 are within striking distance of being able to win this title, but by virtue of the fact that they would need a lot of luck to go their way, especially Jamie Snow and Aaron Thomas. They would need a lot of luck to go their way. It's really the top 7 that can really win this title. The top 6, actually, ironically, only covered by 6 points. Matt Schwass, the man in 7th place, and he's 13 back of joint leaders Nangle and Wedding. But Wedding on top by virtue of his 3 wins in a row, and unfortunately that came to a screeching halt at Sebring, thanks to some unfortunate technical issues for Wedding and also for Brock Harvey, and that race win last round went to Matt Webb.
Yeah, it was quite the hectic last race that we had at Sebring. The other interesting is that really, if Wedding and Nangle get tangled up when they're battling with these guys at the front, and if they DNF in the race, that opens it up for a lot of the people lower down. Your Brenton Foley's, your Aaron Thomas's, your Jamie Snow's. They're all, if the top runners DNF, they're a win away or, good points away from still being in the fight if they can get their cars to the end. So, the top 7 are within a win of the lead, but realistically, the top 11 or 13, even 15th place Rob Dunt, if he gets good points because people drop off the road, especially being a 2-hour race, that can happen. Even he has a chance to move right up the board.
He does. Unfortunately, Rob Dunt not here tonight, but it's interesting you mentioned Brenton Foley because he did not partake in qualifying and he's actually at the back of the field should he take the start, so we'll see how that goes. But the session has now rolled over to the beginning of the race. Now, as we alluded to, or as Matt alluded to before, you'll see there on your timing screen 2 hours and 3 minutes, and the extra 3 minutes is because of the standing start with the leader dragging the field around this 7-kilometre circuit to take a manual green flag, which will be called by Matt Williams in the race channel, and then the 2-hour endurance event will begin. As we start to see our grid start to form up. There's your pole sitter, Andy Simpson. He's in an Audi R8 LMS, and there he is moving out to the grid as we wait for the remainder of the field to take their place. And here we go for the beginning of the formation lap. And actually, Jamie Snow been given a drive-through penalty there. Now, I'm not sure if that's for a jump start, but that's very, very unusual. We'll have to see what happens there. But obviously, you can see there the pits are closed as Andy Simpson drags the field around. So, Bagsy, if you are here in the server, let's run through the order for the viewers.
All right, just to confirm quickly before I do that, because we do have a bit of time in this opening lap, it was a jump start for Jamie Snow. He moved ahead of before the lights turned off, and that unfortunately will give him a drive-through.
That is a drive-through penalty?
It was a drive-through on the screen, yes.
I'll remove that for him.
Okay,
Jamie Snow no longer has a drive-through penalty. So, going first from pole position, Andy Simpson. Second place, championship leader Lewis Wedding, joint championship leader Lewis Wedding in that beautiful pink and black Lamborghini. Matt Webb is in third place in the Skyline.
Sorry, Bagsy. You said that was a drive-through, yes?
Correct.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
All good. Anthony Graham is in fourth position on the grid alongside Matt Webb. 5th is Jamie Snow, who will be hoping for a better run than last week, where he ended up being a lap down on the first lap. Greg Tara, 6th place in the Mercedes. 7th place, Aaron Thomas, other joint championship leader. Greg Nangle, starting further back than he would have liked. He'll be hoping to make up some good places on the start. 9th is Brock Harvey. 10th is Philip Boak in the BMW. I believe he's the sole BMW runner.
He is the second BMW runner. Aaron Thomas, the other BMW runner.
Of course, Aaron, yes. Matt Schwass, 11th. Voda is in 12th. Brian Walsh in 13th in the Ferrari. 14th is Glenn Miles. 15th is Brenton Foley, who, as we mentioned before, didn't qualify, but he is a lot stronger than his starting position implies. 16th is David Keane. And 17th is Big Dog in...
Cadillac.
The Cadillac. I think it's the first time we've seen the Cadillac this series.
It is.
It's a very interesting looking car, but I can't say that I enjoy the look of the Cadillac, to be honest, but to each their own. And bringing up the rear of the field is Dwayne Davies in the final Nismo Nissan.
Now, Dwayne Davies is good.
Dwayne actually qualified in 11th place. He's fallen back somehow and hopefully he will sort himself out.
I think that might be because on our screen he is actually got a drive-through as well, Matt, so that may need to be looked into as well. Actually, a couple of cars have need to sort their order out as well, because Brenton Foley's moved up one position from where he qualified, so he's going to be back in 16th. David Keane's moved up 2 spots, so those guys need to sort their order out before it all comes around.
Once they are alongside each other, it's because we are actually technically racing here. That's why some of these will be out of position, but once they're alongside each other, it will make a bit more sense.
Now, the leader is forming up here, so let's go back to the head of the field, because Andy Simpson is heading the field and maintaining the 50-kilometre-an-hour limit, which we alluded to earlier. In actual fact, Dwayne Davies appears to have retired.
He just came up on my screen with suspension damage,
so
which probably means he didn't realise the penalty was to be removed and has, as we'd say in the short shift broadcast, a little bit upset.
Yes, I would probably tend to agree with that. So unfortunately we're down to 17 runners.
That has, on my screen, I'm seeing that Lewis Wedding has said there's a safety car.
Okay, so this is interesting, because we thought that the yellow flag that was sitting here was not just for the start. So a bit of an unusual start to proceedings here.
Yeah, that's not gone well.
No, it hasn't gone well, unfortunately. We saw the flashing yellow flag, and usually, you're right, Matt, that means safety car. The question is, where is the safety car? There's a couple of guys going off the road out of the last turn, and there's Brenton Foley. Now, these guys are actually going to have to push to catch up to the safety car, so this has not gone well at all for the 2-hour endurance race. As we just watch Andy Simpson just stretching away from Lewis Wedding at the moment, but of course...
Safety car's currently going down the back straight, coming into Lacombe at the moment. So.
Okay, so it's not that far ahead of our race leader. But this means we're going to get probably 2 or 3 laps under safety car now, so a bit of a disaster to start this race, and probably everybody behind, I think, probably has a right to feel aggrieved and a bit frustrated with how this has gone, but nonetheless we'll press on. In actual fact, this probably adds a different element to the race that we haven't thought about yet, gentlemen, if it's going to remain this way, and that's the fuel strategy that comes into play here, because they probably expected to be going racing by now, but this is adding to the number of laps that they can continue to go on for before having to come into the pits. So we expected that we were going to have to get at least 2 stops.
The early safety car has been very common in this series, though, so by now they should have really learnt to expect one in the first stint, definitely, because most of the races, or at least half of them, have been a very early safety car, generally in the first or second laps.
But then you take a look at what happened at Sebring, where we didn't have a safety car at all until about 80% race distance had gone, and then we had 2 in quick succession and finished under the safety car. So a bit of a different situation in that race. But yeah, right, we have seen the safety car come out earlier in some of the other races that we've had in the GT3.
But we certainly haven't seen one come out on the formation lap of the race.
No.
Yeah, I just had a quick look at the replay, and almost looks like it wasn't intentional from Dwayne Davis. I think he just had a bit too much speed and got caught out by people checking up on his end.
His game crashed. He went to a black screen and quote, the screen went black and I woke up in a wall.
That's very unfortunate there then for Dwayne, because he probably would have had a decent run at it.
Well, the pits remain closed with the safety car having been called for. As they come around this time, the pits will be open, but I don't think we're going to get any takers. I mean, if you're at the back of the field, probably not a bad idea, come in and just top off. But we'll soon see how this plays out. So Andy Simpson in the guest Audi car leads the field. So he led the field away from the safety car from the initial get-go, but then the safety car was called immediately for, which we didn't trigger to because we thought that they were going to go racing anyway. And
definitely unforeseen circumstances going on.
No, certainly unforeseen circumstances. Now we probably need to have a bit more of a chat around the cars that are in play tonight, because we have seen the Mercedes obviously very, very quick in a straight line. So sector 1, sector 3, the Mercedes is mighty, but through the middle sector, it's not so good. We saw Tara on one of his, Nangle I think it was, on one of his laps, where he was very, very quick through sector 1. He's only 2/10 away from the top time through sector 1, but then he fell away drastically. He lost 1.1 seconds to the current pole time at the time of his lap, and that was just all because the Mercedes just could not, get it round the technical corners through the likes of, Pouon and Lacombe and Campus and Stavelot. They were just very, very just could not carry mid-corner speeds. As a result, lost a lot of time. But then sector 3, it gained it all back again, or I wouldn't say gained it all back, but it actually, nullified any gain. As the whole field, you can see there on the Kemmel straight, obviously minus Dwayne Davies, and the clock continues to tick. So we haven't turned a wheel in anger just yet. Now, the safety car has been on track for, this is its second, officially the second lap, and we expect we're probably going to get one more after this unless the safety car decides to go in, but usual trends suggest that it will be out for 3 laps. As we wait really for a race start. Probably should give a bit of a look through the field as to the newcomers to the series. So we spoke about Andy Simpson, been very, very quick in some of the other series that he has raced in. So he has done cut some laps in F3 and in the Super Series, which comes to a conclusion later this week, but a bit more on that a bit later. But very, very quick. Matt Webb sitting back there in 3rd place. He was the newcomer last round to the GT3 series and actually won that race, and quite handsomely as well. Anthony Graham, he's new to the GT3 series as well. Haven't seen him around in any of the other previous series, but he's there in the Ferrari 488. Look down the list. Next down is in 12th. So this is Glenn Miles. Now, Matt will probably correct me if I'm wrong here, but Glenn, I believe, has been cutting his teeth in the Rookie Cup.
Yes, he has done a couple of rounds of that where he's had varying success, but considering he does race with a wheel that doesn't have force feedback, I think he's doing an incredible job.
Oh, certainly, without force feedback, it's very, very difficult to learn your craft, but nonetheless, he's... is that Wedding? Wedding's back in the wall. Something's happened to Lewis Wedding. And there he is. What on earth has happened to Lewis Wedding? He's walloped the wall on the exit of Stavelot. Let's go and see if we can have a bit of a look at what's happened here. But no, he's actually gone back to the garage. So something's happened to Lewis Wedding. I think Bagsy will be right across that, but that's rather bizarre.
Having a look now, I think it may be connection issues. We're also hearing that his stream has had issues as well, so I'm not sure what if that has been an internet issue potentially that has affected him and caused him to drop out for a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't have him as not finished as a DNF yet on my screen. So.
He is still out on track, but stopped in. Sorry, I forget which corner this is. The one before you come into the final sort of curved straight.
well, yeah, we're getting some word through from a man on the ground stairs, who's actually one of the other ARW commentators, that Wedding's OBS may have frozen, as his Twitch stream has obviously gone down as well. So I was hoping he can get himself sorted and running again, but if his Twitch stream is frozen, maybe or his OBS stream is frozen, maybe he's also got some other issues going along with it as well. So trying desperately to get himself back into contention, but he's going to go a lap down if he's not careful here, because the field is down the Kemmel Straight, and Wedding's car is stranded on the exit of turn 16 down at Stablot. So he'll have to get himself sorted and rather quickly, but that's disaster strikes the race, or sorry, not the race leader, but the joint series leader for 2 rounds in a row.
Well, if your name is Greg Nangle right now, you'd be counting your lucky stars, which is a phrase I've always wanted to use. Because they are tied on points at the moment, and with all the newcomers coming in, where it did look like Greg was struggling with that Mercedes, qualifying down in 8th, I believe, was his qualifying position.
Yeah, he's 8th. He was 8th. He's now up to 7th by virtue of Wedding having the dramas that he's having at the moment.
Wedding is still sitting on the side of the track. Man on the ground says just saying that he said, "Oh no, OBS froze," and then the stream died. So, not sure what the deal is there. But also, while we're still in the safety car, some people matched whilst Brendan Foley and Philip Boak took the opportunity to pit. So they'll be full to the brim with fuel and fresh tyres, which will put them on a slightly alternate strategy from those at the front.
Yeah, well, we did call this a little while ago, that if you're at the back of the grid, probably not a bad idea to come in and top off and get some fresh rubber, because there's no restrictions on the rubber in the GT3 series. And we were actually surprised at the last round in Sebring that under the second last safety car, that a number of guys who were at the back, who could have quite happily come in and done just that, didn't actually do it. I'm not sure why they didn't do it, but you know, the benefit of fresh rubber is a godsend in some cases, especially the likes of Sebring. Everybody else ahead of them was on worn tyres. They might have been able to gain a position or two. Obviously, the guys at the front had made their bed and pretty much had to lie in it, but the guys at the back who could have scrapped away and picked up an extra couple of points from gaining a position or two, unfortunately didn't come in, and that's exactly where they stayed. Well, safety car's still going. Andy Simpson's got quite a gap here on Matt Webb. Now, Wedding is officially DNF'd, so this is disaster for the joint series leader. Officially, Wedding is out for the second race in a row.
Yes, he's just left the server. If Greg Nangle will just be feeling a lot of relief right now, and now all he really has to do is finish the race to at least strengthen his championship chances. Yeah. Lewis out of the running.
Even if the lights go off on the safety car now, there will still be 1 hour and 48 minutes to go, and really anything can happen in that time.
Certainly can. Well, we're watching Andy Simpson at the moment. We're waiting to see if the safety car peels off and goes to the pit lane.
It's continuing on.
It's continuing on. So this is this randomised lap feature that happens from time to time.
It could be possible that it was extended with Lewis having been parked on the track for so long.
And that is also very possible. So yet another lap under safety car. Look at the lap time. 3 minutes 50. These guys will be screaming to go racing. The longer this goes on, the worse. Oh, we've got someone off the road at the back of Shot. Who's that going off the road there? That's Anthony Graham. So he's just gone a little bit wide there off the back of the... actually, he was out of third place, so just a little bit too much speed through the first turn. As I was saying, the longer that this goes on behind the safety car, the worse it is for the guys sitting at the front, because they've ultimately got to... They wanted to go racing by now. They wanted to get the hammer down and get their tyres back up to temp and get away, because they're going to have quite an angry pack behind them, and the longer they sit there, the colder those tyres are. They're going to need to start warming those tyres up. As you can see, the Mercedes of Tara going back and forth, Nangle and Harvey also doing the same, and a couple of guys a bit further back in the pack also doing the same. But Some of the guys up the front not trying to take too much out of their tyres, but they're going to have to put some heat into them if the safety car is going to be coming in this lap.
I've just got a message from Brenton Foley, and he's saying he hasn't got a message saying that the safety car will be in this lap, so it looks like we're going around at least once more after this lap.
Well, unfortunately for the viewers at home, this isn't rather exciting, and certainly not exciting for us either, but we
well, 2 people have crashed out without turning a single lap at anchor. That's pretty exciting.
I wouldn't say it's exciting, I'd say it's rather weird.
Rather incredible, to be honest.
Rather incredible, especially seeing, unfortunately, one of them is tied for the lead in this championship.
Saying that, though, I know this is very early, but it is my jam to get into championship potentials and the sort of thing. But Greg Nangle's currently in 7th, and a 7th place will only net him 9 points. So it's one of those things where, while Wedding is out, if Greg Nangle doesn't sort of make hay with Wedding out, he's not going to get too much of a gain, to be honest.
That's true, but Nangle's not one of the guys to take undue risk either. There's still 3 rounds to go, and the question is, do you want to take a risk and ultimately put yourself in a position where you either score less points than what you got now, or you ultimately don't finish the race and you leave here tied with Wedding? I think if it was my position, I'd probably drive rather safely and just take the points that are on offer and maybe hope that to God that a few guys ahead of me on the road fall off. But
yeah, being teammates with Greg, I've done a lot of driving with him, and if he doesn't need to take a risk, he will not take a risk. And he'll know that he's got a few rounds left in this championship, and he knows he's in a good place.
Well, there he
He'll
is.
just be going around now and just trying to consolidate the points he can get and just sort of take what he can from this race without trying to overreach.
That being said, he will need to be careful, because if he's too careful, directly behind him is Brock Harvey, and Brock Harvey is only 4 points behind him coming into this race.
That's right.
If he is too careful, he's going to lose the joint championship lead. He should be going away from here with the championship lead, but if he's not fast enough, if he's too careful, he's going to lose it to Brock Harvey.
That's right, and we know that Brock's is very, very hungry, especially after his unfortunate circumstances at Sebring as well, where him and Lewis Wedding suffered disconnection issues within minutes of each other, and both out of the race. And we could tell that Brock Harvey was a shattered man when he came into the commentary box during the first safety car period. You could just hear it in his voice. He knew that he was quick, and he had a car underneath him. He could challenge for a top 5, top 6 finish and score a good bucket load of points, but ultimately he walked away with no points. Now, there's a number of cars have gone into the pit lane back a shot, so you can see there was Matt Schwass going in there as well. Brock Harvey's dived in as well, so let's have a look at and see who the takers are in the pit. So
Big
Harvey,
Dog, Boak, and Brenton Foley, who's come in again.
here they all come. So yeah, Harvey, Big Dog, Boak, Foley, and Schwass have all come in to top off, and they'll quite happily catch the back of the pack.
So yeah, it's interesting to see that, because
Foley came in, actually, sorry to cut you off, Bagsy. Foley in very, very quickly and out, but you did say Foley came through there before.
Foley, Boak, and Schwass all came through before, so they don't have to spend as much time filling up fuel, and probably haven't bothered to change tyres either.
So they've gone tyres, probably I would say fuel only, because Harvey's on the move.
Done tyres. I don't believe Brock Harvey did tyres.
I can confirm that Brenton Foley has only stopped for fuel.
Yep, and I would say the same thing probably for Philip Boak as well, because he was out like a shot as well, not that far behind Foley. Now Matt Schwass gets himself out of the pit lane, so he would have done fuel and tyres, and so too Big Dog fuel and tyres. Well, back to the front of the field. Andy Simpson, following the safety car, leads them through Lake Home, and now through turn 9. So guys who stopped have got plenty of time to catch up to the back of the pack, and they don't have to push, as they say, shit uphill to catch the back of the pack either. They can quite comfortably cruise up to the back of the pack.
We are getting the green flag next time around.
Well, finally, some racing. So we're going to have probably the better part of an hour and 42 minutes, or hour and probably 41 minutes by the time we get to the line, to race hard, hopefully to the end, without a safety car. So we spent the last 20 minutes of what was a 2-hour race, or better part of 20 minutes of what was a 2-hour race, under the control of the AMS Australia Camaro safety car. And now Andy Simpson's starting to try and put some heat into those rear tyres especially. Now to the fronts. as the field forms up. So the last couple of drivers just getting onto the back of the pack. So Harvey's caught onto the back of the pack. Schwass has caught onto the back of the pack. Big Dog is the last one that needs to catch onto the back of the pack, and he's just exited turns 10 and 11, and now on the run down to Puon Corner. So he's still a little while off the back of the pack. He'll have to get a wriggle on now, because the field is now coming through Stavelot, and now we'll run up through towards Blanchimont and the final chicane. Now the safety car has accelerated away from the field, and now Andy Simpson's got control of this field with Matt Webb right behind him, then Anthony Graham, Jamie Snow, Greg Tara and Aaron Thomas. And 50 k's an hour is crawling. It's crawl speed for these cars.
This is probably the part of apart from being in the pit lanes, probably what racing drivers hate the most. It's these cars are usually doing almost 300 kilometers an hour through this section, and they are going along slower than you would in your average city.
Well, part of this new procedure is the safety car goes in and the green flag comes out, but the drivers can't go on the green flag. They have to wait for the manual green flag, which is why I believe Matt Williams may have disappeared off very quickly.
The green flag in game will be the cue to go for the safety car restart.
All right, well, new procedure there. There's actually a bit of a gap between some of the cars on the circuit. So we're ticking down to an hour and 40 to go, and we're waiting for the green flag to be shown. And I thought we were getting another safety car for a minute then when a little flash on the screen. But Andy Simpson holding the field. Big Dog's caught up to the back of the pack now, so everyone's in a line.
I think a few drivers may have been thinking that the 50k speed limit applied to everyone, but it actually does just apply to the leader, so they can, as the leader obviously controls the pace, and that's what is relevant to the restart.
And green flag. So green flag in the air as they negotiate the last two turns of the circuit, which is the chicane, and Andy Simpson will put the hammer down when he feels comfortable enough to do so. And I believe it's no passing before the control line either. So a number of guys still coming through the chicane as well. So you can see there's Voda at back a shot. Matt Webb shadowing Andy Simpson. And Tara gets a stop-go penalty. A 10-second stop-go for Tara. So something's happened to him there. But Andy Simpson controls the restart. Now goes through turn 1. As we look back to turn 2. Sorry, it's back to turn 1. Jamie Snow's ran it up. Graham on the outside. So good move for Snow. Tara's in the wall. No, he just saves it. So he spun off the last turn, Tara. He had a penalty hanging over his head, but something's happened to him there. As we go back and have a look, there he is. So recovering to the track. Let's see what happened on our restart. So he got a penalty for something, a stop-go. And now he was on the inside at turn 1.
It seems like several drivers.
And he got, I think, got a little tap as well. So Tara got a little bit of a tap from somebody, and then he will have to recover. There he is, recovering the car.
Just looking through the field, it looks like Andy Simpson, Matt Webb, Jamie Snow, Anthony Graham, Brenton Foley, and Greg Tara all have penalties.
Yeah, a number of guys.
They were waiting for me to call the green flag, so I went to the official post up earlier that said drivers must maintain no more than 50 kph until the green flag is flown in the game. And they were waiting for me to call the green flag, which was significantly later than the in-game green, and apparently that has still given them the stop and go penalty, which is
what's happened is they were giving the game, because they were driving so slow, the game reordered them, and they were told to drop to the field for driving too slow, but then obviously they've crossed the line first and not in the correct position. Well,
we're going back to while Matt Williams probably needs to go and sort out the stop-go penalty situation. We're looking back at this battle for third at the moment. So Jamie Snow was harassing Matt Webb for a little bit, but he has rounded up Anthony Graham. And in actual fact, Graham's coming under threat from Aaron Thomas. So Thomas in the BMW in his return. Actually, we'll have him on the inside here as they negotiate Blanchimont corner, side by side, those two cars. And who's going to have the high ground here? Graham gets escorted wide off of turn 18, and he will have the inside line here for the chicane at 19, but falls into line. Thomas goes very deep under brakes and pulls it up beautifully and makes a fantastic pass on the inside of Blanchimont. What a fantastic move that was, and Thomas now up to 4th place. Graham relegated to 5th. Nangle has, by virtue of Tara falling off the road, it's now moved up to 6th, and as we spoke, he's not going to take any undue risks, but being pursued very, very quickly by David Keane, as Boak is now harassing Foley in the back of the field there. Foley and Boak actually were some of the guys that stopped very, very early, or actually very late on that safety car period, so they've moved forward quite quickly on the restart as well. Glenn Miles has actually dropped right down the order as well, so he was a bit further up. He was up in about 11th or 12th place at the restart, but he's fallen all the way back to 16th. As we watch Nangle here trying desperately to pursue Graham as they negotiate turns 7, 8, 9, and now run down the hill towards turn 10.
A bit further back in the field, it was alongside each other, Brian Walsh and Greg Tara through Eau Rouge, and that was quite the spectacle. Both of them almost losing it going up through Radio.
Well, Tara's recovered from 16th back to 12th, so a few people toward the back of the field having a few dramas. And Tara was 16th and now, back, as we said, back up to 12th, and he's actually gotten past Walsh, Voda, and Miles having fallen down the order as well. It's just starting to string out a little bit now, this field, as you can see just in forward of shot there. We've still got Graham now trying desperately to harass Anthony Thomas and get back that 4th place that he lost through Blanchimont. Now as they exit Stavelot and now head up this long curving run up to Blanchimont. Here it comes. He's not close enough to make a move this time, but let's see if Nangle can close in on this pair. Not able to quite close the gap, the Mercedes. And Graham probably not close enough to have a go here, but he has a bit of a look. Just shows a nose and says, here I am. And in front of shot there you can see Jamie Snow actually has just caught up to the back of Matt Webb. So Simpson sets a quickest lap with a 2:19.5, immediately surpassed by Webb, and then Snow with a 2:18.9. So Snow pursuing Webb, and the pair of them doing their best to pursue Simpson, who's gotten out to a 3.5 second advantage out in front as they head up through Eau Rouge and Radion.
We've got Lewis Wedding in the box here. He's rejoined us after his technical issues. Lewis, what happened?
It appears that OBS had a failure, and that's alt-tab the game, and even though the game was still running, I could still hear the engine. I couldn't actually get back into the game. I had a similar issue in the warm-up, and I was able to get back in. So I thought, okay, the car's still running, I'll be able to get back in. But I couldn't get back in, and that's that.
It's unfortunate to hear. Yeah, especially given that you were definitely up there in terms of pace and one of the people who was in with a shot at the win. What are you going to have to do going forward into the last 2 rounds of the series?
Just win. It's as simple as that. I'm just going to have to go out there and just win both races and see where it puts me, because this is going to put me, I'd say, at worst, or at best, for me, I think it's probably 10 points behind, and that's going to be pretty difficult to overcome if drivers finish the next 2 races. So just go out there, win the next 2 races if I can, and see where it puts me in the end.
That's ultimately all you can do, isn't it? You just got to go out there and put it all on the table. As always, Jamie Snow spin. Sorry, good to catch you off, guys. I just saw the front of shot. Jamie Snow had a spin somewhere along the line. He was pursuing Matt Webb, and we're going to go back and have a bit of a look here and just see what happened. So Snow was very, very wide on the exit of turn 14, which is Campus Corner, and through Stavelot. And now he took way too much curb on turn 16, keeps it out of the wall, but he will have put some flat spot on those tyres. But Jamie Snow was looking good, and unfortunately just took a little bit too much curb. but he's carrying on, but he's probably going to have some horrible flat spots there, and he's recovered, but back to 7th.
Fortunately, he has only dropped down to 7th place.
So he didn't lose a great deal of time, but recovered it fairly well. But he's probably going to have some flat spots there, and now he's behind Foley's Ferrari, and Foley having already stopped a couple of times, up 10 positions from where he started this race, and on an alternate strategy to snow as well. So he won't want to relinquish this, because it is officially for position. And the last thing that Jamie wants is to be stuck behind another car that he's only going to have to stop before the car ahead of him anyway now, given the strategy change.
Speaking of stuck behind another car, having a look back down in 10th place, Brock Harvey has been stuck behind David Keane for about a lap and a half now almost. And he's not making the gains through the field that Brenton Foley has. Well,
they're both running the Aston Martin. You can just see them at the top of the hill there, back a shot behind Philip Boak. And we'll go back and take a look at those guys, because you're right, they both run the Aston Martin, and Harvey's not harassing the back of Keane here, but he's just following him. But you're right, he's probably got some more pace and wouldn't mind using it.
He's got a better run coming down into Pouon as Keane runs a little bit off the curb there.
And Harvey does too.
Harvey runs even wider. Excellent livery on David Keane's car with his beautiful blue sidewheel tyres. He's up 9 positions, Dave Keane. He started pretty much dead last, and so he's done quite well for himself so far.
Yeah, he's done very, very well. And the only two Aston Martins in the field are line astern at the moment, as they snake through turn 15 and now 16, and now the run back up to the start-finish line. Before the start-finish line, they'll encounter the chicane, which I kind of missed the old chicane, guys. The old bus-stop style chicane from I think it was the 90s.
I think you're the only person who thinks that.
Yeah, I didn't mind that chicane, to be honest with you. I thought it was something that I greatly miss. As Harvey goes very, very deep as he tries getting past Keane. I think Keane might have backed out of it. So Harvey finally through.
Aston Martin friends helping Aston Martin friends. There by the looks of it.
Yeah, it could very well be a strategy call here. Maybe Keane's just decided, you know what, I'm holding him up. I might just see if I can go with him and see if we can latch on to the back of Philip Boak, who's 2.2 seconds ahead of this pair. And you see him just in the front of shot there as we now head down the hill towards Eau Rouge. And lap 11, we thought we would have had a few more laps in the books by now. Unfortunately, the safety car has paid to that, as Harvey goes a little bit too wide on the exit of turn number 5, and now down the straight.
And you see further up the field, Anthony Graham has caught right up to the back of Aaron Thomas.
And Keane having a look here. Sorry to cut you off, Bagsy. Keane's having a bit of a look because he gained significantly in the slipstream of Brock Harvey's Aston Martin, but couldn't do anything with it. Sorry, cut back to you.
Aaron Thomas and Anthony Graham battling for the final podium position very closely as they come down into the no-name corner here. Yeah,
they've been battling since the drop of the green flag, actually, on the restart lap. Thomas got by Graham through Blanchimont, with a beautiful move, and these two have been line astern and gnawing away, and Anthony Graham gnawing away on the back of that BMW for the last several laps. Nangle's just watching brief at the moment, just sitting back there. Quite happy in 5th. Obviously he's gained that position now because of Jamie Snow's little incident on the exit of turn 16. Snow actually catching up to the back of Brenton Foley still.
Greg might be a little bit worried about the pair of Ferraris he's got behind him at the moment.
Yeah, I don't blame him if he is, especially seeing that one of them is on an alternate strategy. He's in a Ferrari sandwich at the minute, Greg. He's got a Ferrari ahead and a pair behind, and he can't make inroads on the pair in front, and he's not gaining anything over the two behind him.
Just a note on always.
And Andy Simpson sets in a fantastic lap times as a 2:17.0, and that's the kind of pace that we were seeing, or getting close to the kind of pace that we were seeing qualifying.
Graham's looking like he might be having a run at Thomas into the first hairpin. Actually,
here he is. He goes to the inside and has a bit of a look. No contact, and they give each other some space, and that's some good driving. Well spotted, Bagsy. But the side-by-side here as they run down the hill, and Thomas will probably have the line. I think Graham's going to have to concede, and he does. But he'll try and tuck in as they head up the hill. And can he get a slipstream?
Himself on the way
yeah, he has.
Rouge, so now he's going to be affected up radial and all the way down the straight.
And he's going defensive. He's gone defensive too, and that's probably the line he would take. But look at this, at Thomas, a little bit of a touch. A little bit of a touch, but Graham's going to be on the outside for turn number 7. Lacombe and Thomas prevails. So you're right, Bagsy. He compromised himself, immediately knew he had to go defensive, and held that line all the way down to turn number 7. And well defended from what was a compromising position.
Good defensive fundamentals there from Aaron Thomas. He knew exactly what he needed to do. He needed to make Graham go the long way around, and he did, and Graham realised that he wasn't going to be able to hold it. He wasn't going to have the extra speed around the outside, and so he slowed back in behind, and he'll be planning next lap. He's seen what Aaron Thomas has done this time, so he will now have it in his mind that maybe he'll sell him a bit of a dummy this time, potentially. Maybe not go for the overtake straight away into the first corner, and instead get right behind him instead of being alongside. Yeah,
he's very close at the moment. Meanwhile, as Matt Williams pointed out earlier, Greg probably had a right to be worried about the Ferraris behind, and now he really does, because he's got a mirror full of Brenton Foley's Caltex Ferrari, and he's now harassing the back end angle. Now, can he get a run up the straight here towards the final chicane? And I dare say he is. He's close. Look at this. He's right under that rear wing. And look at Blanchimont. Jeez, that's brave, Brenton. I didn't think you were going to have... Not a good idea to have a go there. But nonetheless, he's following him very, very closely. Very, very wide off of that, off of turn 18. And Greg has to sort of close the line down a bit. But Foley's up the inside here. Greg has to give him some room. And, geez, what a beautiful move that was by Brenton Foley. He made that stick superbly well. Actually runs it a bit too wide off the exit of the last turn, but makes the move stick.
I'm surprised that Greg would have even bothered trying to put up a fight for that position there, being such a long race.
He's still trying, though.
Yeah, he's still trying. He was caught in a very compromising position there, but Foley prevails. But can Greg get him back down the Kemmel straight? Because if he sticks close enough, the Mercedes has got some straight line speed, but he's going to have to get a little bit of a toe to help here. But
does he want to, though, is the thing, because as Matt said, there's, he's a very prudent driver. Why would he, as he seems to have let off the throttle a little bit, because he's left a big gap now to Foley, so it looks like he has decided that it's better to just run his own race and do his own thing.
He's better off not being in the fight at the minute, I think. We've still got almost an hour and a half of this race to go, so there's no point in getting into a battle with someone at this early stage.
That's right.
Meanwhile, Foley's doing very well, considering he's the first person on the racetrack who's already done a pit stop. Depending on how the race goes, he may be able to make it through on only one more pit stop due to the safety car at this current time, and he is currently 18 seconds off the lead, so that is much less than a full pit stop service will be, so he's putting him in a pretty good position as he runs a bit wide and pull.
Yeah, well, what will ultimately happen, though, will be that Foley will, you're right, he'll only probably have to stop once more. The guys ahead will probably have to stop twice more, and probably very, very late in the piece as well, which will cycle Foley back towards the top of the order. Meanwhile, I just wanted to quickly point out, there's been an exchange of position. We're talking about Thomas and Graham going at it, and Thomas is back through his Foley's gone wide off of turn 15.
Looks like Snow ran a little bit wide there as well. He's run very wide out of 16, just with a couple wheels off the track, but he looks to have held his speed quite well coming up this section.
Yeah, he certainly has. And Foley will hang on to... well, Greg's still within striking distance, but Snow's closing in on Nangle here as well, so he doesn't want to lose another position here, Greg, but he just needs... You're right, he just needs to run his own race.
Graham's got
Foley's gone deep. Sorry to cut you off there, Bagsy. Foley's gone deep. Oh, and a very awkward touch between Nangle and Snow. And Snow's probably going to round Foley up as well.
Brock Harvey going up the inside of Phil Boak. Sorry to cut you off there now. The Brock Harvey has just gone up the inside of Phil Boak going into the final chicane, and he has taken 8th place from him.
Yeah, back a shot. We should probably just go back over...
Ahead of shot, we've got Aaron Thomas, as Foley's getting very out of shape.
Yeah, we're just going back to the replay here.
Okay.
Front locking for Brenton Foley going into the second last turn, and that compromised him.
Snow's having a look at Foley.
Yeah, and Snow had an opportunity to have a go at him off the last chicane as well, but got a bit of wheel spin out on the curb and unfortunately couldn't do anything with it.
We've got Aaron Thomas having a go on Graham at the moment.
And we've also got Snow having a go. Yeah, we've got Snow and Foley side by side. So we're staying with that battle because we went back to have a look at what happened to Foley. And Snow goes deep under brakes here and pulls it up and gets the job done. So Foley goes from 5th to 7th in the space of half a lap. And having a very, very rough lap at the moment. There's a bit of puff of smoke just ahead of Nangle. And that's Thomas and
into the back of Anthony Graham.
The Thomas and Graham battle continues on. And we've got a lap car just ahead of them as well. I believe that looks like it might be Miles, Glenn Miles, because he's somewhat 2 minutes off the pace. And Voda not that far ahead of him, so they'll be lapping them very, very shortly. As Thomas has a look on the switchback for the inside of turn number 13. And they touch and goes a bit wide. And Miles is off the road. This could compromise it here. Miles, he manages to keep it away from the guys battling for position, but might have been a bit cheeky from Thomas there. It was up the inside, gave Graham a little bit of a tap, but nonetheless, the positions have been exchanged again.
He's gone off and hit the wall as Nangle, Snow, and Foley.
Oh, both has also gone off and hit the wall.
So back in the pack.
We did have Jamie Snow. He'd caught right up and was right under the rear wing of Greg Nangle. But,
sorry to cut you off there, Matt. Another attempt here at Graham having an opportunity to look at Thomas. Thomas having to go very defensive and a little bit of contact. Probably a bit of a serve back for the one up the inside at turn 13 there. But Graham's not going to go away. Thomas has got a battle on his hands in his return to GT3 competition. Thomas has gone way deep. Extremely deep. I'm not sure what happened there. He missed his braking marker or something, but it went very, very deep. And that lets Graham through, and Graham will have a bit of breathing space.
That being said, this battle has brought Nangle, Snow, and Foley, even though they've all been battling, they've been catching these two in 3rd and 4th. So we could soon have a 5-car battle for the final podium position.
Yeah, very, very mouth-watering prospect. You see them all in shot there as Voda goes through. He's a lap car, so he'll be very, very close to them soon. But look at this. Graham, Thomas, Nangle. Snow around the outside of Nangle. Geez, that's a ballsy move. And he makes it stick. Geez, that was a wonderful move. And we just didn't catch the last of that. So we want to go back and have another look at this. How did he set this move up?
They made a little bit of contact on the exit, which I believe has knocked one of the front wing elements off of Nangle's
Snow was a long way back, but he got such a run on Nangle. Nangle went defensive, only gave him a little bit of car room, but Jamie Snow, such a demon under brakes, and he made it stick, and he made it stick well.
You've got to wonder if this is Nangle being a little bit a bit too careful in this case, and he's been caught napping a little bit, and Jamie Snow sailed around the outside.
I think that pass was brought on with Nangle going defensive. He would have already had to brake slightly earlier, and he would be trying to be careful. But Jamie is a very aggressive driver as well. He's very clean when he's racing people, but if he sees even a hint of an opportunity, he is going to go for it, and that's what's happened there. As we now have Brenton Foley all over the back of Greg Nangle.
Yeah, so Nangle's had quite a battle on his hands. He's spent most of his race in a Ferrari sandwich, as we said earlier, between several Ferraris.
Leader is in the pits. Andy Simpson has pit.
Well, Leader has blinked, so there he is, negotiating the lane. Oops, sorry, as the broadcast gets it slowed down nicely for the line. That will put Matt Webb through to the lead. There he goes. Andy Simpson, one of the first pit boxes. Let's see how long he's stationary for. Graham negotiating the last turn now, and Voda's in a bit of a compromising position here as well. So he's being lapped. So he'll need to concede to both Thomas and to Snow. He doesn't look like he's showing any signs of doing so. But Thomas will have the inside line here for turn number 1.
Brenton Foley has got in front of Greg Nangle while I was looking away. I'm not sure if you two spotted that.
No, we didn't see that. We did not see that. We're busy watching Voda become a bit of an obstacle to the guys who are trying to overtake him as Snow gets through. Thankfully before Eau Rouge. As he negotiates there, and Foley's had to cut the corner a little bit there to get past, and I don't know if that's compromised him somewhat, but Greg, the Mercedes is gaining. You can see it visually on the screen from the helicopter cam, and Greg's going to have a look to the inside here, and Oh, he had to pull it up. That was a bit awkward for Greg. He needed to be a bit further alongside to make the move.
Just in the background of the shot, there is a certain silver Aston Martin of one Brock Harvey that looks to be closing this gap as these guys in front continue to fight each other.
Yeah, he's just at the top of the hill there coming through turn 9, so he'll be on the tail of these guys rather quickly.
So Andy Simpson has come out in 9th. He had a total time in transiting pit lane of 52 seconds and was stationary for 41 seconds. So that's around about what you'll need for a tank of fuel and some fresh rubber.
Yep, so his first stop is over and done with, and now let's see what he can do with it. As Snow is harassing the back of Thomas here, we haven't been paying much attention to what's going on a bit further down the field because all the action seems to be in the top 7 or 8 positions. As Snow goes wide over the gravel, and that brings Foley back into the picture, and Nangle along with him. My voice is starting to dry out.
Anthony Graham did the same thing as Jamie Snow did about 2 seconds before, so that gap has closed down some as well. As it looks like Foley is going to have a run on Jamie Snow into the final chicane.
Yeah, well, Snow, he'll have to look at defending here because Foley, he left the door open there at Blanchimont. Did Snow, as the dust continues to get kicked up from the cars in front. Foley running very, very wide across the exit, but he's a bit too far back to have a go. Snow should hold this comfortably, and he does. But Foley close up very, very quickly there as... Snow into the pits. And Nangle goes with him. So that now releases Foley, and now he needs to put some good laps in because he was one of the drivers that stopped under the safety car at the back end of the safety car period, and now he's got to do something with it and put the hammer down because those guys behind will have fresh rubber, and this will be where the game of strategy leapfrog starts to play out. Another man who stopped under that safety car was Brock Harvey. So here he is in 5th. And moving nicely up the order. Again, alternate strategy. And
Brenton Foley and everyone else who did pit during the safety car, they still do have to stretch their fuel quite a long way if they want to make it on one more stop. But regardless, they will be set up to have a very light stint at some stage during the race if they can't make it on one more stop from here. So it could still be very interesting in the closing stage of this race to see how those guys are doing.
They might need some safety car intervention, I think, as well, Matt, to try and help that cause. That would certainly give them a free kick that they need. Even one safety car period would give them enough.
As Jamie Snow is leaving the box now, and Greg Nangle has just started moving as well.
Yeah, so Simpson has comfortably come out ahead of those guys. Matt Schwass was also one of the drivers who stopped under that safety car period at the beginning of the race as well. So he's actually come out Andy Simpson's come out ahead of Matt Schwass on track. So Matt going a bit slower than probably he normally does, but again, as you were saying, Matt, maybe looking just to try and stretch that fuel a bit longer and just driving his own race at the moment. But
interestingly, Jamie Snow and Greg Nangle both stopped for longer than our former race leader Simpson, and so maybe Simpson had more fuel on board, or initially when he came into the pits, or he's going for a shorter run earlier in the race.
It will be interesting to see how that strategy plays out, if indeed he did stop for a little bit less. So Simpson trying his best to hunt down
Webb
Boak.
in the pits now.
All right, so Matt Webb, our current race leader, in the pits. So Simpson was
Anthony
ahead.
Graham in too.
Simpson was ahead of those guys by a couple of seconds prior to the stops. So we'll stay with Andy Simpson now as he approaches some lap traffic. We'll see where he comes out.
Aaron Thomas has come into the pits as well.
So our top 3 all in the pits.
Yep, and that puts Foley and Harvey, who stopped earlier in the piece, into 1st and 2nd place respectively.
Boak into 3rd.
And Boak into 3rd, as Simpson now negotiating the last 2 turns and onto the start-finish straight. So he'll comfortably come out ahead of the likes of Thomas and Graham, and probably Webb as well. And yes, he will come out ahead of Matt Webb, as Webb is still not leaving the lane.
I'm just getting word here that Andy Simpson may not have changed tyres.
Well, that's an interesting dilemma because
I've got quite a reliable source in Lewis Wedding, so...
Well, Wedding would be the master.
To go a name drop there.
Wedding is kind of the master of strategy too, because Wedding's done a lot of GT3 testing, especially in the Lamborghini, and has worked out whether or not
Well,
you actually need...
Sorry, we just had a very close incident as Matt Webb left the pit lane. Matt Schwass spun coming out of the first turn in front of him, and they almost collided.
Well, that's not good news, and thankfully that no car's damaged in that situation. But just back on the subject of Lewis Wedding and tyre management, he did say, even back at the round in France, which he won, that it was a case of whether or not you actually needed to change tyres, because the tyre degradation in the GT3 is not huge. It's not to the point where you actually need to change tyres every time you come in for a stop. Obviously, the drivers that feel they need to get that benefit of the fresher rubber will do so, but at the expense of an extra pit stop time. But in Andy Simpson's case, if he hasn't changed tyres...
That would explain why his stop was so much shorter than the guys behind him.
And not only that, he's actually extended his gap out over Matt Webb to the tune of about to 20 seconds now, as you can see on the timing screen there. And that gap was only about 5 or 6 seconds when he came in for his stop. So I think your source may very well be right, Matt, but we'll keep an eye on this with interest to see what happens to Andy later in the piece.
We've got a... Oh, sorry, it's just the yellow flag flashed on and off a couple of times. I thought we had another safety car as Big Dog comes into the pits.
Right, so...
But Lewis is saying that he had a camera on Andy Simpson and the car did not go up on jacks and was stopped for apparently significantly too short a time to change tyres.
Meanwhile, the battle between Aaron Thomas and Anthony Graham is it's kind of settled down for a moment now. These guys aren't going hammer and tongs. So Snow's come out comfortably ahead of Thomas, who's come out ahead of Graham from the stops. And Nangle, actually, the big loser out of that one. He's back down in 10th place and quite a few seconds behind Graham here. So he's actually, so it's about 4.5 seconds behind Graham. So now he just needs to run his own race, because Foley and Harvey and Boak all have to stop at least once more to get home.
Jamie Snow. Jamie Snow is in front of Aaron Thomas after the stops.
Yeah, that's what we pointed out then. He has leapfrogged them. And he's challenging Swass. Yeah, he's challenging.
I was just watching that battle then and thinking this may not be exactly what these guys behind wanted, and spotted that Aaron Thomas was behind Jamie.
Yeah, so...
It's interesting to note that Andy Simpson's stop time was 10 seconds less than Matt Webb's, almost exactly. So I'm assuming
that would be the tyres.
The tyres are done separately in the series, if I'm recalling correctly, and they take about 10 seconds.
Now I think Snow's going to have a look here at Matt Schwass down the straight, because
looks like Swash is flashing the lights.
Swash is flashing the lights. Ooh! As Snow pulls alongside, geez, Snow had to get a little bit of opposite lock there just to keep under control. A pit drive-through penalty for Philip Boak. Now, he hasn't stopped, so I can only assume that's probably a corner-cutting incident there, gentlemen. So, interested if you can have a look into that one for me. But Snow has negotiated has got past Schwass, and he's now got a lap traffic in Big Dog, who does the right thing, goes out on the tarmac on the exit of turn 10 and lets these guys through. Thomas has actually caught up to Schwass as well, and Schwass is struggling. Thomas goes through and in pursuit of Jamie Snow, and probably won't be very long before Graham gets past as well.
So I just had a quick look, and Boak went very wide and pull on and kept his foot in, obviously gaining an advantage, so the game assessed him a track cut, and that was presumably his final one, so he will have to serve that drive-through.
Yeah, that second sector, it's very easy to accumulate track cuts through there, so I'm not surprised at all that we've seen someone cop that penalty.
It's a shame for Boak, because he was in quite a good position with the way he's played out his strategy by pitting under that safety car.
Yeah, so it's going to drop him out of third place, and Simpson was actually closing in on him rather quickly. That drive-through is probably going to bring him out.
Oh, sorry, Foley and Harvey are in the pits, so Simpson will go back through into the lead.
Well, so so we just watch while those guys are in the pits. We're watching Schwass and who's that behind him? That's Graham having a very, very awkward moment through Blanchimont, as Schwass was defending and Graham was attacking. And they almost had a coming together here. So a couple of Ferraris are battling on away there. Now, is Boak serving his penalty?
Boak is actually stopping in the pits, which means he will have to come through again to serve that
now
penalty.
Foley's leaving the pits. Sorry, guys. Foley's leaving the pits. He's going to come out right in this Ferrari battle here. And this is going to be juicy because he's come out between Thomas and Schwass. And Foley's going to have cold tyres, but Schwass has been struggling for a couple of laps and now closes right up on the back of Foley. So up the hill they go. That's interesting because Schwass and Foley all stopped on the same lap, and Schwass is right on the back of Foley now. And having a little bit of a look. Is he going to go deep under the brakes? No, he thinks better of it. So 3 Ferraris line astern. Ha ha ha.
The only difference is Schwass hasn't pit again.
No.
Yeah,
And
it's throwing quite a spanner in the works here. With Nangle was originally, I think he was before the stops. He was in 5th or 6th place, and he's now down in 8th.
He will jump back up to 7th once Schwass pits.
Yes, he will.
Yeah, he was having that fight with the Ferraris of Snow and Foley as well, which I believe he'd just lost out as they were just as they were about to come into the pits. So he hasn't really lost too much on the strategy so far, and once again it is more of a situation now where we wait until the final bit of the race before we see what
There we go.
actually progresses with the race.
Matt Schwass has ceded position to Anthony Graham here. So Graham free to go and try and attack Foley. And next man that Schwass is going to have to contend with when he gets there is going to be Nangle. Harvey's actually come out behind Nangle following the stops. Tara rounds out the top 10. As said before, Boak has a penalty overhanging his head having stopped, and he will have to tour the lane and serve that penalty as well. So a double whammy there for Philip Boak. Simpson's got a comfortable margin out in front at the minute though, gentlemen, over Matt Webb to the tune of somewhat 20 seconds, judging by the screens.
It is slowly coming down. Their last lap, Matt Webb was half a second faster, so those tyres might not be making a difference, a huge difference right now, but as we get further on and Simpson's tyres get quite worn, they'll be very second hand, and he might go off the cliff and start losing a lot more time.
I'm just watching Graham doing his darndest to reel in Brenton Foley, and not doing too bad a job. Probably a bit too far back to challenge here though, up the straight.
We've got an hour and 5 minutes to go, and so normally we'd be 15 minutes into our regular races, and if you stopped at this point, you wouldn't be able to make it to the end. So the likes of Foley and that are almost certainly not going to be able to make it to the end on one more stop.
Yeah, the word is that a tank is lasting approximately 35.5 minutes.
Yeah,
so that would mean
they're going to need to stop
one more stop for the likes of Foley and that, and definitely one more stop, potentially 2 for the guys at front.
Yeah, maybe some safety car help too.
Under that safety car, as we have a yellow flag just near the section Brock.
Yeah, it's just in the in sector 2, the yellow flag.
Well, Graham looks like he's going to have a go at Foley into Pool 1.
Yeah, we're watching this battle here, and this is a brave spot to have a go. Foley's going to have to give him the room here, and that's going to leave him vulnerable, and he has to go wide. He had no choice there, because Graham had stuck his nose right up there, but Foley comes right back at him, and he just tries to tuck under that rear wing and maybe have another look. Foley having a look now on the inside at turn number 13. They give each other the room, and that's very, very good driving, but Graham's got the high ground here. Ooh, cuts across in front of Foley. Now has to go defensive and drives that defensive line, and that's an exchange of position. Well done, both drivers, but it means that Graham is through. And actually, something's happened to Aaron Thomas, guys. He's reported going down the board.
I was just watching him and Brock Harvey at the moment. Brock Harvey is just 4 tenths behind him at the minute, and he just had a look up the inside. He wasn't quite close enough, but these two look like they are going to have quite a fight. As
Foley has another look on the inside here of Graham coming into turn 19, and a little bit of touch there, but Foley hangs it round the outside, and we won't get traction out there, and that's very similar to what happened to Jamie Snow, and he's going to have a position for high ground hopefully for turn number 1 if he can go deep enough under brakes. Wouldn't mind, Bagsy, if you can have a look into what happened to Aaron Thomas, please, because it's Foley's got hung up on the inside wall at turn number 1, and that allows Graham to get away. As I was saying, Bagsy, wouldn't mind seeing if you can have a look at what happened to Thomas, because he was right up there trying to reel in Jamie Snow to 3rd place, so he was effectively up in 4th, and now finds himself down in 7th. So something's obviously happened to Aaron Thomas that we haven't seen, as Nangle now is got a bit of a sniff and hopefully trying to reel in Foley down the straight, but not able to make any impression at this point in time with an hour and 2.5 minutes to go.
Just having a look, this isn't the Aaron Thomas incident, but with Foley and Graham going into the first corner, it looks like Graham just pinched Foley a little bit in the hairpin there and shoved him into the barrier. So a bit rude there from Anthony Graham.
Yeah, just a little bit naughty.
Brock Harvey has lost a second to Aaron Thomas in the final chicane. He had to look up the inside and looked like he got a little bit caught up on the curb on the inside, which has obviously unsettled his car, and he's had to back off a bit through that section.
Well, speaking of Thomas and Harvey, here they are. So Thomas has got a 1.5 second advantage over Harvey. As you said, a second was in that last second. Harvey goes very wide at Puon.
Yeah.
He was extremely wide in back a shot at Puon. And Tara's the man that's behind him, who's been going along rather quietly since what happened to him at the restart. So he's
Harvey
comes up in
will have
ninth.
got a track cut warning for that as well. So
Well, if he kept his foot in it, he certainly would have.
Just an update
going
on
that
that.
far off, I think he would have regardless. So I've lost my ability to talk here. The track limits are very sensitive around that section, from my experience. It's very easy, even if you do lift off, you will quite easily accrue the penalties as you go through there.
Well, we're just going back up the field here. Sorry, Bagsy. We're just going back up the field here again because Graham and Foley are closing in on each other again as round 2 of this little battle. Now, Foley's got a really good exit here off of turn 1. Sorry, not turn 1, turn 20 as they head down the straight. Now, going defensive. Graham going to go defensive? No, he manages to hold the line, but no risk of being pinched on the corner this time as Foley gets very close to that wall again. And they now head down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Sorry, Bagsy, go on.
So Aaron Thomas, he had a spin coming into No Name corner and unfortunately lost the rear, lost a lot of time.
Foley's gone! He did. We were watching him as he went,
good.
and that's not good for Foley as that lets Nangle through. That lets Thomas through. And Brock Harvey probably going to have a head of steam here as well and pulls over to the side there, Foley. So Harvey will now go through. And, oh, geez, that was one hell of a scary moment there for Brendan Foley. Let's see if we can have a look from the onboard. And he got a fistful of opposite lock as well. He managed to keep it out of the wall, but he had that's from the helmet cam of Brendan Foley, but he just got all out of shape.
Safe to say that could have been a lot worse. He came so close to both Aaron Thomas and Greg Nangle as they came up pretty much unsighted, not knowing that was happening in front of them.
I was watching Nangle in the background, and he had not a major fishtail, but that car was definitely wiggling around as he saw Foley as he came over the top of the hill, and he took the evasive manoeuvre, and yeah, that car wasn't settled at all.
No,
and it would have been a terrifying moment for Nangle there.
He would have seen smoke signals, but he wouldn't have known what was going on ahead until he got to the top of the hill, and then he very, very quick reactions from the professor to avoid contact as Foley now, after recovering from that spin, is harassing Harvey, who was the last man to get through and take a position away from him. But Brock won't be wanting to let this guy pass. Brock's on a different... sorry, go on.
Sorry, Nether.
Sorry, Foley's wide. Sorry to cut you off there, Matt. Foley very, very wide. We were playing a bit of tag there, but Foley went extremely wide off of the corner and actually rubbed the wall, and that's given Brock Harvey a bit of breathing space. I'll throw back to you now.
We've got Aaron Thomas. I was going to say he's right on the back of Nangle, but he's just gone through on Nangle. As I started saying that, they're just going through the final chicane now. It looks like Greg may have moved across and let him go. Yeah,
he's just ahead of this battle on track. That was looking rather lively, but Foley was going to do his best to have a run down towards Blanchimont and try and get position back on Harvey, but he ran wide off of turn 16 and rubbed the wall, lost a little bit of that Ferrari in the process. And that gave Brock the breathing room that he needed to retain the position as they head down the hill again. On lap 24 now. And we're inside an hour remaining. We've got just coming down to 58 minutes, so halfway through this race. Well, let's go through your scorecard and see what's happening. Andy Simpson out in front in the Audi. He's got an 18 and a bit second advantage over Matt Webb. Now that gap has been coming down, but not in leaps and bounds. Matt Webb, here he is approaching Puon. last round winner in Sebring in the Nissan, so comfortably in second at the moment. Jamie Snow's had a good recovery after an early spin, and he's sitting in third, the lead Ferrari at this point. Anthony Graham has cleared Aaron Thomas comfortably. That was an enlightening battle for position for a number of laps, so he's where he started in fourth place. Now just got his head down and going about his business. Aaron Thomas is just ahead of the pursuing Professor in fifth place, and the Professor is sixth. Harvey and Foley having a bit of an exchange here. So Brock Harvey holding down 7th as Foley rat-a-tat-tat on the back bumper is holding down 8th. Greg Tara 9th, down 3 positions from where he qualified. And rounding out your top 10 is David Keane in the second of the Aston Martins. Drivers have not finished this race. Not finished, but drivers who have retired from this race. Dwayne Davies on the opening lap and Lewis Wedding under safety car. And we've still got 16 of the 18 runners circulating.
Both of the non-finishers due to technical issues as well, which is quite an improvement on what we have seen in previous rounds, where you'd have people just crashing out during the actual racing.
That's right. Now, I'm just watching here. Something's happened to Foley because Foley's fallen behind Tara now. So Foley's fallen away from the back of Brock Harvey. Tara had somehow gotten past Foley somewhere on track, probably in that last sector of the lap. So I'd say Foley's probably made a bit of a mistake. But that moves the Mercedes up one more spot.
It's got since we're halfway through the race, I figure now's the time to do a potential championship points update. If the standings stay as they are, which I very much doubt, but if they manage to, Greg Nangle will be leading by 5 points on 70 from Brock Harvey on 65. Wedding will drop to third, 10 points behind on 60, which is where he started. Baker and Stairs still remain in the top 5 despite not starting this race. Matthew Schwass will jump up slightly, Jamie Snow jumps up. So still several drivers will be within a win of the front.
With only 2 rounds to go. Well, we've still got 55 minutes to sort out this race, as we're just watching Tara trying to hone in on the back of Brock Harvey, who's had some breathing room now with Foley leaving him alone, but unfortunately for Brock, Tara's no slouch behind the wheel either, and very quickly will reel in that Aston Martin down the straight. You can see the deficit is only about 1 second between these guys, so if Tara gets a sniff, he'll be through. Brock won't make it easy, and this is probably the point where we'll see the true speed differential off of turn 16 and back up towards the start-finish line. Let's see how good this Mercedes is in a straight line. The actual fact that Brock's just managing to stretch it slightly, but once the power equals out, the Mercedes is very, very quick. Not as quick as it was in the early rounds, but certainly very, very fast in a straight line.
Jamie Snow in third place is having a very good drive at the minute. He, after struggling last round in his comeback event, he is doing very well for someone who...
Oh, hang on, sorry, sorry to cut you off there, Matt. That was a little bit of a wiggle. I was going to say a little bit of flamboyance, but he had a fistful of opposite lock over the top of Radion to get the car straight, and he managed to keep it pointing in the right direction.
But yes, after he won at Imola and was leading the championship, he had a lot going on in his personal life, which meant he did have to take some time off, and he wanted desperately to get back in and try and get his lead in the championship back. And then after the troubles he had last time out in Sebring, he'll be over the moon right now with running in third place at more than half the race distance.
Yes, and a very respectable podium position at the moment, or provisional podium position. That being said, he's got Anthony Miles, who's doing similar lap times behind him, and both these guys have to stop again. So I wouldn't put it past Jamie that he's going to have a bit of a think about how he plans this out and when he stops and what he's going to have to do in order to retain that position.
One of his big issues for a while was he'd be in a good position and he'd spin out or he'd crash, and he has worked quite a lot on that. And
very wide.
There is put the mods on him straight away.
Just a little rub of the wall there on the exit of 16. It's not the first time we've seen some cars do that.
As I just get my camera off of Jamie Snow.
Just getting some information through that Matt Webb, based when he was going on Let's Go to the last lap, had about 5 laps of fuel left. So there'll be 4 laps of fuel left now until he stops next. So we could expect to see our race leader in probably the next 2 or 3 laps, depending on how much fuel he has been using per lap, which would certainly mean at least 1 more stop.
Yeah. Well, Matt Webb's still been going about his business. He's got the gap down to 17.5 seconds to position 1. Last lap around, Simpson set a 2:18.0 to Matt Webb's 2:17.3. So just gaining bits and pieces of time here and there, Matt Webb.
It's not enough to justify his changing tyres, though, unfortunately, because over this stint's about 10 laps old, and he's only gained 2.5 seconds basically over the course of that. So that extra 10 seconds for tyres hasn't paid off for him, and looks like Andy Simpson's made the right call here by staying on the old rubber.
But the thing that will come into play too, Bagsy, is that whatever Simpson has done, Matt Webb now knows about it. So he knows that he doesn't have to change tyres and he can actually get the benefit of a faster stop this time around. Simpson was definitely probably going to have to change tyres with the lap times that he's currently doing. But this will bring Matt Webb back into the picture if he doesn't have to change tyres, and given that fuel is only lasting somewhere around about the 35 minutes, these guys are potentially in the box seat to stop one more time and get home, and could set up an interesting battle toward the end, especially if Matt Webb manages to leapfrog Andy Simpson, if he can pump in some good times between now and when they stop.
Might be an explanation why Foley's a bit off the pace now compared to what he was. He might be trying to fuel save to try and stretch that out to mean he only has to stop 1 more time. But I think it's going to cost him more time, although it might not cost him more time than it's worth, because at the moment he's 50 seconds behind Simpson, which is pretty much exactly what a pit stop will be, including transit time. So if he can stretch it, it'll be good, but it's seeming...
In actual fact, race leaders in the pits, Bagsy. So, got to cut you off. Just seen race leaders in the pits. So Matt Webb's going to go through, and if you can see on the shot to the left of screen, no, we didn't quite see, but Webb is going to go through, and now's where he needs to put the hammer down, because Andy Simpson is in the pits. And if we look back, there he is, stationary, and he's going to lose position to Jamie Snow as well. Snow goes through, and Graham goes through, and Aaron Thomas going to go through as well. So where's this going to put Andy Simpson? Nangle actually going through, and Harvey going through as well. So this will be interesting. Let's see where Andy Simpson comes out, and Foley's on the front straight, but he won't interfere in this little battle. Andy Simpson is going to come out behind Brock Harvey.
This is a very critical stage of the race now for Matt Webb if he wants to close this gap and have a chance towards the end of the race to get in front of Andy Simpson.
I don't think Andy Simpson changed tyres again.
Are you sure about that?
If he didn't, that was a very bold call going on the information I've got from Lewis Wedding. He said that at the end of that stint, he would have approximately 5% of his tyres remaining, which is no tyres remaining.
And what makes this even more interesting is if you look at the clock, 48.5 minutes remaining, and if the fuel strategy is true, that means Simpson's going to have to stop 1 more time. And probably for a splash and dash and a run to the line, unless he gets some safety car help, which...
You know, we're getting in from a man on the ground stairs who's got it from someone else. So I know this is sort of stringing along a little bit, but we're getting information third hand, but it's backing up what I'm seeing. He has not changed his tyres, so that Audi is going to be desperately hard to hang on to.
Well, it's a very, very bold call. So maybe Matt Webb potentially can really leapfrog Andy Simpson here. Because Webb has already changed tyres once. We know that for a fact. and he can actually, if he's going to do the same trick that Andy Simpson's done and not change tyres, he's actually going to have the better tyre life and will probably come out in front. So we need to see what the distance is between Simpson and Webb's got 32.5 seconds on him at the moment by
We're also
virtue of the
hearing
clock.
that Webb will be able to go, he'll probably be at the end of lap 31 most likely, so 2 laps from now will be when Webb is most likely in the pits.
They'll be very, very close to going one more stop to the flag. He might even have to fuel save a little bit. Let's see what...
It's going to be, I think it'll be too marginal still. He'd need a safety car.
He'd need one. You would need one to be 100% sure. As Simpson, I think you're right, Bags, with those tyres. They're probably a bit second rate because Simpson just skated it through turn 19 and now through 20 as he comes down to finish his 28th lap. He's not making any inroads into Brock Harvey here either, Simpson. In actual fact, he's lost ground. I mean, that outlap time was a 2:23.0, so we'll get a bit better indication on this next time around. But he's not making any inroads on Harvey.
If he hasn't changed tyres and he's now got a full tank of petrol, that car is going to be almost impossible to drive.
He's going to be very, very gingerly piloting that car around this 7-kilometre circuit. As we haven't got really very many battles on track at the moment. Probably the closest one, which we'll go to now, is Graham trying to hunt down Snow for second place as they negotiate turn 10 and now 11. This gap's closed up a little bit in recent laps since they got past Simpson in the pits.
Brock Harvey is also closing in on Greg Nangle, as we've got Miles has spun just before No Name Corner in front of the leaders, but luckily they've avoided him.
Yeah, they have. So Miles is reporting us 3 laps down to the race leaders. So Big Dog, Voda and Walsh all 1 lap down. Through turn 14, now down to Stavlot turn 15. Thomas there in back of shot, trying to reel in these guys as quick as possible. Graham's gaining ground here. He's only got he's a half a second behind, and hopefully he'd be able to catch up to Snow and punch a bit of a hole in the air if he had a good exit. And you can see the timer just in the bottom left-hand corner there. He's hanging with Snow here. It's not far. He's not close enough to have a lunge into the chicane, but he's certainly very, very quick in a straight line, Anthony Graham, for his first race, doing extremely well. Snow having a much better result on his, or much better drive on his second race back from sabbatical.
We've got Brock Harvey is just trying to close down this gap to Greg Nangle. It's just over a second at the moment as they come into the final chicane and the timing goes funny as Nangle goes into the pits.
Yep, so that'll be a position for Brock Harvey.
Nangle will be having to stop once more going by the numbers we've got from Lewis Wedding. He's got about, if the numbers are accurate with the 35.5 minutes,
yep.
Nangle will need a 10
Sorry,
minutes.
but Andy Simpson's just come across the line, his first full lap that hasn't involved a pit stop, a 2:20.133, and on the same lap, Matt Webb did 2:18.039. So this decision to not take tyres is already hurting Andy Simpson a ridiculous amount.
Could it be a case of back in with the supercars? We've seen this before with the likes of Hobson and Wedding having tyre dramas and forgetting to change tyres. Do you honestly think he's forgotten to change tyres, or do you think it's a conscious decision?
Well, going by the outright speed he does show, I can't imagine he's lacking experience with Automobilista, which has generally been the issue in regards to the tyre situation we've had with people.
Well, certainly a very, very interesting decision.
He's lost 2 seconds to Brock Harvey in the last 2 laps.
Yeah, we could see that he was falling back from Harvey quite quickly, even after his outlap. He had lost quite a lot of... visually, the gap had increased. So, you're right. This decision to go with no tyres, I'm wondering now that this is potentially disastrous for Andy Simpson. These guys that are ahead of him on track do need to stop one more time, so it will promote him back up the order. But Simpson, if he gets no safety car help, he's going to have to stop again anyway and will ultimately fall behind the likes of Snow, Graham, Thomas and Harvey again.
even with safety car help, he will struggle to get to the end potentially.
Matt?
But what he might be doing at this point is, if he knows these tires are having lots of issues, he may be trying to get to that 35-minute mark where he knows he'll be able to fill all the way up again and make it to the end.
Matt Webb not mucking around. He knows that he's got this race by the...
Second, third, and fourth are all in the pits. Jamie Snow, Anthony Graham, and Aaron Thomas are all in the pits.
We'll keep an eye on that. But Matt Webb, as I was just about to say, he's got the bit between the teeth here. He knows that he's got this race by the scruff of the neck, and he's ringing that Nissan. His last lap time was a 2:17.9, which is only a half a second off what his best lap was. And by contrast, when we look down the field and we look for Anthony Simpson, whose last lap time around was a 2:25.7. So that gap is ballooning out and rather quickly, and you can see it's gone up to 37 seconds from race leader to the former race leader. And this is becoming this is going to get ugly very, very quickly.
We're expecting Matt Webb in this lap as well.
Well, yeah, it looks like he is. He's got the little cog on your bottom left screen there, just above the number 1, indicates that he is preparing for a stop. So let's stay with the race leader, as there's an exchange of position. Looks like Simpson and Foley may have been having a bit of a go at something there, but Simpson still in third.
They've just lapped Big Dog.
Okay, so that will be the reason why that has a little bit of timing up there.
Phil Boak has just hit the back of Anthony Graham, I believe. Anthony was just in the pits.
Yeah,
so the exit not quite as clean as it could be, and I keep having a heart attack every time that yellow flag pops up.
Aaron Thomas has had a big crash coming up through Radion. Glenn Miles had lost it in Radion. Aaron Thomas.
Yeah, there he is. There he is. So we've cut back to shot here. So let's see if we can go and have a bit of a look at what happened to Aaron Thomas. He had only just come out of the pits. He was behind Snow. Let's see what's happened. Looked harmless. Oh, there was a car in the middle of the road there as well. It might have been a lapped car.
It was Glenn Miles.
It was Glenn Miles.
And he'd lost it going up into Eau Rouge.
And absolutely crash, bang, wallop.
While that's happened, the leader is in. It didn't cause a safety car, but as you can see on Glenn Miles' car, it's absolutely caved in where Aaron Thomas hit it. This is unfortunate for Aaron Thomas. It's ruined his race. He was battling with the likes of Snow and Boak and Tara, and as they all came out the pit stops, they all dived around him, but fortunately he didn't quite make it.
That's right. Well, this is going to put Brock Harvey potentially into the lead of the race if the Nissan is still stationary in the pits, and yes, it is. So this will put a big smile on the dial of Brock Harvey, as he's going to lead a lap.
Webb it's going to be very marginal.
Where's Simpson? Simpson's coming in. Simpson's coming in, guys. So
yep, he knows he needs to. He thinks that he can make it to the end at this point, and I'm presuming Webb will as well. Although we thought 35 minutes, there will definitely need to be some fuel saving if there is no safety car.
Webb's having a very long
advantage. Matt Webb,
by a long way.
Had to fill all the way up. Andy Simpson, will be very quick in the pit lane. He's going to do tyres
and not
a very
much
small amount of fuel.
Yeah,
but he's going to fall behind Anthony Graham and Philip Boak and Jamie Snow.
Sorry, Bagsy. Aaron Thomas has just pulled over and has retired from the race.
Yeah, he has. So Thomas has pulled over from 10th place. Obviously, too much damage for that car to continue. And that will promote Matt Schwass up to 10th.
He ran wide going through Pouillon, and I didn't think the car looked from the exterior. It didn't look as though it was in too bad a shape. Obviously, after such a massive incident, it's going to have quite a bit of damage, but apparently he deemed it to be not worthwhile to continue going.
Andy Simpson, it doesn't look like he's taken tyres again.
I don't think he knows how to change them.
I have.
It's a bit strange for Andy Simpson because he's quite well versed in racing in AMS, so he's raced quite a few of the series, so you would think that he knows how to change a tyre, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on here. Unless he's having some sort of technical gremlin that's preventing him from doing so. That's rather bizarre. But he's fallen all the way back down the order to 9th. As we watch Brock Harvey here. So this is music to Brock Harvey's ears because he was going to lose position to Simpson probably at some point. Harvey's has led a lap now. and potentially coming into the pits this lap. Let's see if the screens are true, and indeed they are. So as Harvey
he almost runs into the pit wall.
I was going to say, it was a little bit loose on the entry there, and Foley joins him in the lane. So this will now cycle Matt Webb back to the lead of this race.
But the information we're getting is that he can go 14 laps on a stint, which will put him about 7 minutes from the end. And so that is, he'll need to do some fuel saving, some significant, he needs to save 2 laps of fuel basically, or 3 laps, sorry, to be able to make it to the end. So there may be a splash and dash and a sting in the tail of this yet, because while he may have to stop again, these 2 people in the pits, Brenton Foley and Brock Harvey, will not.
And some other word coming through as well is that the series that Andy Simpson has raced before in AMS Oz, so that being the Formula 3 and the Super Series, they do not require pit stops. So this is the first race that Andy Simpson has raced with the GT3 where pit stops are a part and parcel of how it all goes.
Oh, Andy Simpson has lost it coming towards Blanchimont, and he's on the side of the road, so I think he may be parking and retiring.
Yeah, he's well off the road there. That's some of you don't want to see it. So and we just caught the back end of the spin there. He's going around in the circle.
Underway, and so is Brenton Foley. They're both leaving the pits now.
Yep.
Harvey just behind.
Yeah, Simpson's gone. Simpson is out of this, so what we thought was going to turn into a really good battle at the start of the night, Andy Simpson unfortunately has retired from this race, and that will be music to the ears of Matt Webb, because he knows everybody else behind him is going to have to stop again, so he can afford to probably push.
They're not though.
Or potentially
Harvey
not.
and Brenton Foley will not have to. They should be able to make it to the end from here.
They should be able to make it to the end, but Matt Webb's got far enough advantage that he only needs to stop for a little bit of fuel and then get going again. He doesn't need to change tyres if he's going to be 7 minutes from the end. Obviously, if a safety car comes out, that will negate him needing to stop again, because it'll erase the 7 minutes that he needs to find and make up. But comfortably out in front. Jamie Snow as doing his best now to stretch away from Tara, but he goes wide there on the Exeter Puon. Tara's actually leapfrogged Nangle in all of this as well, guys, but I don't think Tara has stopped for his final time yet. So
no, he has. He's got... I believe he has.
He has?
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's interesting if that is the case, because Nangle going about racing his own race.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. I think he may have actually potentially not stopped, but he's just been much nicer to his tyres than anyone else has.
Drive-through penalty for Big Dog, so probably the corner-cutting gremlin striking again. He's been doing his best to get out. He's been doing his best to get out of the way of some of the leaders coming through. There's a rather large dent on the back of Snow. I thought he was having a moment there for a moment, but I think Snow may be coming into the pits here. Let's see what happens. And yes, he is. So in he goes, and that puts Tara through to 3rd place, and Nangle will now take over 4th. Harvey will now get past Snow, so that's an interesting development there.
As will Foley.
As will Foley. So it's all shaking out with 34 minutes to go. And Jamie Snow taking on tyres. Foley goes through. Brendan Foley's last lap was a 2:23.7. Now, that to me looks like it may have been an out lap, because that's the kind of pace that Andy Simpson was doing on an out lap.
Just getting word in that Andy was unable to change tyres or race, and he ended up with rear punctures and unable to continue.
Oh, there we go.
So it seems potentially a technical glitch caused him to not be able to change tyres.
I'm just flicking through our timing screens here just to see how things are all panning out.
Looking, despite his punctured tyres, all his sector times were within tenths of each other. So he definitely had the pace to potentially do well in this race. It's unfortunate that it ended that way.
It certainly is.
And we now are in the zone where anybody who does come into the pits will make it to the end.
Yeah, and quite comfortably as well.
Yeah, Jamie Snow is definitely going to make it to the end, as are Brendan Foley and Brock Harvey, so they're currently 5th, 6th, and 7th. So they'll be the ones to watch now. Greg Nangle, Greg Tara, Anthony Graham, and Matt Webb, all most likely to stop again, barring safety car or some of the greatest fuel saving I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The advantage that those four have over Harvey, Foley, and Snow is they won't need to take on a full tank of petrol if and when they do stop. So
Well,
they
that's
may be able to continue to fight, and they will have, if they change tyres, that is, they will be able to fight.
Probably not worth changing tyres though at that point, but
Yeah.
it will be interesting to see how they go about it, because it's a fairly long pit lane here, and you have to slow down right as you're going through the corner. As Boat gets a drive-through penalty.
That's his second one, isn't it?
Yeah,
That
that'll
is
be
his
another
second.
corner cut penalty.
Meanwhile, at the head of the field, Matt Webb just posted not only his PB, but the fastest lap of the race, 2:17.274. So he's got it all to himself at the moment. It's his race to lose, but he's quite comfortable out in front at the moment.
I'm just watching him go around at the moment, and that car is just behaving perfectly for him at the moment.
Yeah, he's got it all. He's got it all dialed in. Whatever he did at Sebring with the strategy call, he's made it work for him here as well, and he finds himself in the lead of the second consecutive race. And can he go on to convert it to a race win? Meanwhile, Tara and Nangle are the next closest pair on the track. Pair of Mercedes in 3rd and 4th place. With Tara, looks like he's going to have to stop again, whereas Nangle does not. Can Nangle go to the end, guys? I'm not 100% sure if he's going to have to stop for a splash and dash.
Oh, Matt Webb just lapping Brian Walsh and being forced to put a couple wheels off the track up the back end of the track. It was okay as he had concrete there to put the wheels on, but still not an ideal situation when you're lapping.
No, definitely not. Meanwhile, in the absence of racing activity, if you follow the World Cup, there's a game going on at the moment between England and Panama, and in the 38th minute, it's England 3-0. As Webb set to 2:20 that time around, so obviously having to dip the wheels into the dirt actually cost him a bit of time, but he can afford that because he's got 15 seconds or 14 and a half seconds over Graham behind, and he can
lap 2 cars as well.
He did, and he can control the pace out the front now. So
as Nangle or Tara, they're both in Mercedes, and I've got
Yep.
confused.
Yeah,
Side by side.
they are. So Nangle, I saw, had a little on the timing screens. He had a bit of a nibble into the final chicane, and Nangle defends. So Harvey's just watching this
Tara
behind as well.
defends. We've both got confused there.
Yeah, we have got them confused. So, and Harvey's just watching this battle because he's just quietly trying to close in.
The two Gregs and the 2 Mercedes are definitely going to be doing a lot to confuse us in the closing stages now, and a lot to help Brock Harvey out if they start chewing each other up too much.
Yeah,
Brock Harvey knows that barring a safety car, he'll be able to get past these two because they'll have to pit again. So he knows he can play it safe.
We know that Tara definitely has to stop again. I think so we'll see where Nangle comes in, because you're right, depending on safety car intervention, which we've been rather fortunate since the beginning of the race that we've gone pretty much flag to flag.
Despite that massive crash at Radion as well.
And despite the massive crash at Radion as well.
Sorry to Bagsy.
No, go ahead.
I like it. As Nangle was just going to say, he's dropped down about 8 tenths away from Tara now as Big Dog gets another penalty.
We kept saying before about Nangle that he just needs to run his own race. He was in the middle of a bunch of Ferraris earlier in the race, and they were all trying, to attack him, and he was having to try and find just a bit of clean air, and in the end he let them go and just need to run his own race.
He's closing back up to Tara now, but I was just about to say it looked almost like as soon as he realised Tara was going to fight back immediately, that he had backed off just to be safe. But that may not be the case. So he's pushing quite hard now to try and get that third place in the race, as he's now 3 tenths off the back of it and closing down this back. Let's call it a straight.
Yes, through the sweeping bends, and he's close enough here, Nangle. Can he do anything about it, or is Tara going to go defensive? No. They both need to pull it up, and it is as you were, although that Tara's gone a little bit deep on the marbles there, but then Nangle's done the same. But Nangle tries to get the better drive off the final turn. Down to the first turn they go, but no way through there.
Every corner they come to, Nangle's just, he's being very prudent. He's not sticking his nose up. He's not trying to be better on the brakes. He knows that he can just apply pressure here and hope Tara makes a mistake instead of having to actually make the dive.
I was just about to say that. I think going by what we are seeing, it doesn't look like he's trying to outbrake at all. He just wants to say, look, I'm here, as he gets a bit of a wiggle with Grady on there. He's just trying to say, I'm here, keep your eyes on your mirrors, because if you make a mistake, I'm going to take it. But it looks like Brock Harvey as well is catching them.
He's slowly closing in behind the scenes here. We're just watching him get ever closer to these guys in front, because this is the closest battle on the track. Matt Webb's got control of the field and in front quite comfortably. Graham's running in second, but Tara and Nangle are scrapping away rather nicely here for third. I mean, they've been giving each other room. These guys know the drill. They know not to run into each other. They know how to give a racing room. But they have got Brock Harvey very, very quietly just making inroads into this pair, especially through this section, which is where the Mercedes struggles and has to wait to get the power down, because all it wants to do is understeer off the turn, and you'll see the gap should be going down, but in fact, you can see it's fluctuating.
Just quick note on the pit strategies. If Matt Webb comes in with about 7 minutes to go, he'll probably take on about 30 litres of fuel. So that 30 litres of fuel is probably 15 to 20 seconds of stopped time, plus 10 seconds, 10 seconds if he does tyres, plus 10-second transit. He probably won't do tyres though.
Nangle having a look at the inside of turn 18, and they've both gone around. They've both gone around. We saw the beginnings of that, and they've both gone around. Harvey manages to get through, and Brock Harvey gets a drive-through penalty. What was all that about?
That would have been for track limits.
There's no
safety car.
That is a full course caution as well. My goodness gracious me! Have a look. Here it is, and they just got themselves wide. And
Nangle has gone around again.
And there's no rear wing on Nangle's car. So, dear oh dear. Well, we spoke about this earlier in the program.
Pit lane's closed.
Because pit lane's closed, he can't go through. We spoke about this earlier in the night, taking risks, and that Nangle really didn't need to take any undue risks with Wedding not finishing this race, or not being DNFing from this race. Now he's taken an unnecessary risk. He was battling for third. He could have quite comfortably settled in there in fourth and taken the points, but unfortunately he's now down to sixth, and he's going to have to stop because that car will not want to turn corners. As you can see here, straight off at Radion into the Eau Rouge, Radion into the wall, and that's going to be game over.
Have you seen the side of the right-hand side?
Yeah, we can see it's completely caved in. Front corner, side and rear corner. He's going to have to park it. Yeah, that's Nangle's done. I'm not sure. Well, this is going to be trouble because the safety car has frozen the order, and he'll have to get back into position now. It'll be frozen from the time that the safety car was called. And given the fact he's got no rear wing, and this car's not, as I was saying before, this car's not going to want to turn corners. Yeah, it's not going to want to turn corners. I think Greg just needs to park it and retire it. But ultimately,
if he finishes the race, he gets points.
No, he's done. He's done. So an unnecessary risk does not pay off in a reward for Nangle, and we have a safety car now. We'll wait to see how this all shakes out, because this is going to add to the strategy as to who actually can get home and who
Everyone
actually
can make it
needed to
home
stop
now.
again, because Matt Webb's going through turn 1 now, so he'll be the first man to pick up the safety car. Graham will close in. Brock Harvey's got a drive-through hanging over his head by virtue of having to go off the road to avoid those guys. So that means that Brock was on
That's a big blow for Brock as well, because he can't serve it at the moment. He has to wait until the safety car pits and then do it after the first flying lap. So he's going to drop a lot of positions.
And no one on.
He'll be behind Schwass.
Yeah, and on top of that, with that, given that Brock had to take to the escape road or to the grass to get past those guys who were battling for position or who were spinning rather than run into them, by virtue of the fact he actually got a penalty, it means he was on his last warning anyway. So we had seen him go wide once or twice at Puon, corner turn 12, and obviously he'd been penalised a couple of times. So avoiding action, unfortunately, and keeping his foot in it has ultimately cost him what will be third place, and will put him down, as you're saying, around Matt Schwass when he serves that drive-through and the field all compresses up, down in 9th.
The big winner from this could be Greg Tara. He would have been probably thinking of coming in the next 10 minutes or so, and he now won't have to do that. He'll be able to make it to the end potentially with the safety car laps.
Yeah. Well, in actual fact, it's not going to put the penalty for Brock Harvey is not going to put him behind Schwass, because Schwass has been lapped by the leaders and is now a lapped car. So he's going to come out behind Boak if Boak manages to catch up to the pack before this safety car goes in.
I think Voda may have run out of fuel. He's stopped on the pit entry. He's moving very slowly on the pit entry.
So he might just manage to make it around and get himself filled up there, but has come into the pits while the pits have been closed, so that will unfortunately necessitate another tour of the pit lane for him as the field now slowly starts to compress. So it's Webb and Graham line astern, Matt Schwass in between them, behind Graham, which means, and Big Dog as well. So Harvey will catch up to the back of this lot, and he'll have 2 lap cars in between himself and the second place runner, although he has got that penalty hanging over his head. Foley and Tara and Snow therefore will gain from Brock Harvey having to serve the drive-through, so they'll all move up the order.
I'm not sure what Voda's doing, but he's parked on the outside of the pit entry here.
And all this, with 20 minutes to go, means that Bagsy is going to be furiously recalculating the point standings to work out how all this shakes out, because with no points now for Nangle, for DNFing, because Nangle will not make the 75% distance by my mental math, which therefore means he won't be classified. And Voda's parked, he didn't make it into the pits, so...
his engine's still running though, so I'm not sure.
Could be technical gremlins.
Oh, he needs fuel, but he can't make it round with the pit lane closed.
Yeah, so he's waiting for the pit lane to actually open, as there's Tara, I think it is, diving into the pits. So obviously damage for Tara and needing to be repaired. As who's that gone very well? Is that? Oh, I was just about to say. It's Graham. That's Graham going very wide at turn number 1, which we've seen him do that a couple of times before as well. So the pit lane is open. As the field comes back around now, by virtue of the fact that Wedding has not finished, Thomas has not finished, Simpson is not finished, Nangle will not finish, Snow, Foley, Harvey will all finish. They will gain points, but just be a matter of where they actually gain their points, because we suspect that Harvey's going to come out after he serves his drive-through somewhere behind. He's going to come out behind David King, which means he'll come out in 8th place. As everybody will move up.
I think this situation suit Jamie Snow the best.
Well, this brings him right back into contention. With a 3rd place finish...
depending on... I'm not 100% sure on when everyone has pitted... As Foley has just retired from the race.
So Foley's retired from the race, so that's awfully strange. So what's happened to Brenton Foley, guys? You'll have to get on to see what's happened there for us, because... that's very, very strange, unless he's made a mistake or he's had a disconnection issue or something. But they're dropping like flies at the moment. We've lost, 4, 5, 6 runners now out of 18, so we've got
We did
two-thirds of
say
the
a
field.
2-hour-long race is a long race. It looks like he's had an internet issue because he's just disconnected and disappeared from the race.
David Keane is leaving the pits now, and we also have a Nissan, which I assume is Vodo having to get it back in. So he must have just been waiting for the pit entry to open.
Yeah, he must have been. But look at Philip Oakes now made his way up to 5th place, and up as a result of all of this chaos, and Tara behind him. So Keane will come through to 7th once he passes Foley, and that means that Brock Harvey will no doubt end up in 7th place when it all shakes out, as Voda receives a drive-through penalty, and that'll probably be a speeding infringement in the pit lane.
I think it was because he had to enter a closed pit lane.
Or he's had to enter the closed pit lane, yes.
Yeah, because it seems that the pit lane doesn't open, like you have to complete the next lap and then be allowed in, but because he was... Oh, he says he's retired from the race, unfortunately, so he won't be serving that.
Yeah, which you didn't have the fuel for.
I believe we have Brock Harvey listening in on us, and he told us to have a look at the new livery on the safety car, which looks fantastic.
Yeah,
so if you are listening, well done on that.
Yeah, well, we did see it before. You can just see it on some of the shots. Obviously, we can't focus in on the safety car with our cameras, but there it is, front and centre, 001 HSV, the Automobilista Australia Camaro safety car.
Another HSV with a bloody Chevy badge on it.
Well, that sadly is the way that we're going with the way that we import cars into this country in vast numbers now. Nothing frustrates me more than seeing a Holden Ute with a Chevy badge on it.
See, that's why we get along, never.
Well, 15 and just under 16 minutes to go. We're going to get at least one more lap under safety car. And it's going to be Webb having to defend from Graham on the restart. Harvey's going to have to do a lap and then come in and serve the drive-through that is over his head, which will put him down to 7th place. Now, Matt Schwass has actually got his lap back, which is good.
He was the lucky dog.
So he was the lucky dog as Graham goes very wide again, and at a couple of guys going wide at turn number 1 on this safety car lap.
Just about 5 minutes ago, Graham had 50 litres left and Webb had 61 litres left. And if I'm remembering correctly, they're using about 10 litres, 8 to 10 litres a lap. So, but obviously on the safety car, they're using a lot less, probably closer to 3 litres.
So you're potentially saying here that Graham may need to stop one more time, depending on how thirsty that Ferrari is.
Well, the safety car's in this lap, and we're probably about 2 minutes away from going green in that case. And so that would put us at about 12 to go, which will give us about five laps. So it'll be marginal for Graham. He may have to fuel save. Webb should be safe. Webb will be safely through. Graham will be marginal.
Well, the benefit for Graham is that he's got 2 lap cars between himself and Brock Harvey, but then he's got Brock Harvey who's going to have to serve that drive-through penalty, which will then release Boak, and it'll be a matter of time to see if Boak can do anything with what he's with that BMW underneath him to hone in and pass Graham. So that's the only real interest that we'll be watching on this restart, as we're waiting to see if we're going to get the green flag this time around. And the safety car procedures that we've talked about so much in this race in the very beginning will come into play again, as a little bit of gamesmanship here with Graham drawing alongside Matt Webb on the restart here. Just trying to just get into the mind a little bit as I come down to Puon Corner.
Well, it's certainly been an interesting round with our 2 front runners not scoring any points whatsoever in this race.
And the safety car is coming in this lap. Word on the ground from our pit reporter stairs is that the safety car is coming in this lap.
I've just confirmed that as well.
So that means that Matt Webb's going to have control of this field, and he'll have to pull them up between Stavelot and the chicane and run at the 50k limit until the green flag is shown. Now, does the green flag, they are to go on the green flag that is shown by the game. It's not a manual green flag as we were hoping for with the manual start on tonight's race. They do go when the green flag is shown, as the lights on the Camaro safety car are still illuminated.
It is definitely coming in this lap though. Just quickly, Jamie Snow is being told to stay behind Greg Tara, which means he has lost now 3 positions as Matthew Schwartz has somehow unlapped himself and picked up spots in the process.
Well, that's rather interesting.
Something has gone significantly wrong in safety car procedure.
Well, that's interesting for the championship in points as well, because we'll see how that goes.
Fourth, and he's now being forced to drive around 7, or he will.
That's right. Safety car in. Safety car is in the lane. Matt Webb's got control of this field, and it's single file. Harvey's actually got only one car between himself and Graham. Has Harvey been shunted? Because he just come off on the front of the screen. I'm not sure what happened there.
Through the final corner.
Oh, they're all checking up. And the green flag has been shown, and there's a car in the pit lane, and I think that's one of the Ferraris, probably Miles. Oh, and Matt Webb missed the start. Matt Webb has missed the start, and he's been rounded up by Graham. So how on earth did the leader missed the start? That's very, very bizarre. Has a bit of a moment there on the exit of turn 1. He's got Tara for company as well. Snow's managed to fight his way back through. He's past Philip Boak.
He's got his spots back.
He has got his spots back, but it's Anthony Graham who capitalises on the restart mistake from Matt Webb. Webb's got a Mercedes all over the back of him. A little bit of a touch as well. Schwartz has been handed a penalty. I reckon that's going to be Snow on the inside. This is like Schumacher and Hakkinen all over again, as Snow makes a ballsy move on the inside and gains 2 positions in one foul swoop. What a move from Jamie Snow.
My advice to him when he asked me why he was being told to stay behind Tara was, I don't know, the game has obviously made a mistake. You've got this, and clearly he agrees.
Well, now he's got to get out there and put the pressure on the man in front. Matt Webb's going to try and go with him, because Matt Webb has, can only put one word, has mucked up the restart. Graham's trying to make hay while the sun shines. He's got a 1.4 second gap on Jamie Snow, who's very, very closely pursued by Matt Webb, very, very closely pursued by Tara, and don't write Boak and Keane off either. They're right in this as well. We've got 10 and a bit minutes to go.
Just potentially a penalty coming in for Graham, because they meant to wait till the start-finish line before overtaking, and Matt Webb hadn't gone yet because he wasn't at the finish line.
Well, it will be debated post-race, but for the moment he leads. Snow having to defend very, very heavily from Matt Webb, who in turn is having to defend from Tara, having a look as well.
Snow
as
just a little bit. That's
yeah,
just a little bit of speed
just
there with a couple of wheels.
Yeah, with the rooster tail. And Tara's having a look at Matt Webb here as well, and this is on the outside for the right-hander, but it puts him on the inside for Blanchimont turn 17, and Matt Webb gives him the room, and it's going to hang Matt Webb out to dry, but no, he gets back into line rather quickly. But Tara has moved up 1 position, and will Matt Webb have a look down the inside? Matt Webb coming back at the inside on Greg Tara. Oh, he lost the back end, and just, I think probably he managed to, I'm not sure if he managed to save it, or if the little bit of a tap that he had with the Mercedes managed to put it back into line, but Matt Webb had it all crossed up through turn 19. But he's back in front now as Harvey serves his drive-through penalty.
I was surprised to see Tara so willing to go side by side through that final sector after the incident angle, which happened in that final sector, was what brought out the safety car.
Yeah, it was done very, very early though, so he got a much better exit out of turn 16, did Tara, and he was alongside Matt Webb very, very quickly. Webb gave him the space, but now Webb's got the bit between the teeth because he knows the time is now and he needs to get past Jamie Snow. He's only got 8 minutes and 45 seconds to go, and they've both got to hone in on Graham rather quickly. You can see the Nissan closing in, but it's not going to be close enough, I think, for us to move into turn number 7, or is it? No. Backside, Snow locks it up. So the perceived pressure, and Jamie Snow goes too deep. Matt Webb cuts back underneath him, and that's second place back in Matt Webb's possession, and now he can set out after Graham.
And I can sorry, Bagsy, just to confirm, Brenton Foley's issue was an internet connection failure.
Also, Brock Harvey, after that restart, had a big moment and hit the inside wall going up through Radion and spun to the outside. So that's why he's lost so much time on top of the drive-through penalty that he had to serve. So he's dropped back down to 7th. We're just getting an update through the. This is the wording in the regulations that we have. The lead driver may begin racing upon reaching the start-finish line or when instructed by the flags and lights to do so. No passing is allowed prior to the start-finish line and will be strictly policed.
Well, that will be interesting news for Anthony Graham. And probably not the news that he wants to hear, because from what our screen showed, he definitely passed before the safety car line and they were all checking up. So there's also probably going to be a bit of debate as well about all the checking up that came out of that safety car restart as well. It was rather messy. Now Jamie Snow has got Tara for company, and behind them Keane is harassing Boak, and I think if those guys both looking for their best results of the season as well. But Tara's not close enough to have a look at Jamie Snow, and this race has come alive in the last few laps as Snow locks it up and Tara closes in very, very quickly. So I think Jamie Snow's probably struggling with tyres at the moment, guys, as he lights it up a bit too much, and I'm not sure if he's going to still maintain position for third here.
He does have a habit of getting a little bit too aggressive and a bit too eager on the throttle during this stage of the race too, when he's in a close fight. So whether or not he's struggling on tyres, I don't know, but that is a thing you can see from Jamie Snow.
Yes, so Snow has got Tara all over the back of him. Can Tara do anything up through Radion here? Tara very, very wide on the S. He's been penalised for that. He's got a drive-through penalty, so that'll give Jamie Snow a bit of breathing space, but you could see it on the screen. Tara was very, very wide and he kept his foot in it. The car fishtailed, and that's a penalty. He has exceeded the track limits, and that moves Boak and Keane, or when that penalty gets served, up into 4th and 5th on the road. Great result for those guys, both recovering from, Boak especially recovering from a bit of an average start. And Keane's gone very quiet. Mr. Tara's fishtailing everywhere. Jesus, how did he save that? That was a mega, mega save from Greg Tara. Let's have a look at that again, because that was all crossed up. Here he is coming through Lacombe. We'll go on board from the side shot with this Mercedes. Let's see how he went. Let's listen in. Yeah, he just got a bit wide and had to feather the throttle and get it back under control. And he managed to do so wonderfully well.
We're just getting word in that Matt Webb is on his final warning for track limits as well.
Oh, so bad. So he must have gone very, very wide somewhere. We haven't seen much of Matt Webb going wide through the turns, but ultimately he can't afford to take any risks now. There's Jamie Snow getting a penalty as well for a drive-through, so they're coming thick and fast. So Snow's had something happen to him. Webb on the inside now of Graham. Graham gives him the room.
Through Blanchimont,
through Blanchimont. And that
Graham is having to fuel save now because he had less fuel and he's probably not going to make it to the end.
Yeah, that's going to be right. And with a potential post-race penalty hanging over his head as well, he'll just want to get to the finish line. I'm not sure what the time that will be imposed for a restart infringement is. As Tara was wider background, Snow coming in to serve his penalty. Tara has not served his, but Tara's defending from Boak, and he'll have the inside line here for turn number 1. Keane trying to buy in on this as well, by the virtue of the fact that Boak was on the outside of Tara, but he couldn't make that stick.
I'll say for David Keane, he started in 18th place, and he has had a fault-free race and is been rewarded greatly for him up to 5th. It's a very impressive drive. Everyone else has been getting track cut warnings and all this. He's kept his nose clean and he's been rewarded. He's going to gain another place as well when Tara comes in to the pits, and if Graham gets a significant post-race penalty, then that's a potential podium for David Keane from 18th place.
That's right. Well, I was just thinking about this a minute ago, because you have to serve your drive-through within 3 laps of having it been issued to you. Now, this race is time certain plus 1 lap, which means that Tara is going to have to serve the penalty before the penultimate lap. Otherwise, he will be disqualified, because he will not make it. He'll make it around for this lap, which will be one of his laps gone, and he will not. From my math, he will not be able to take a post-race penalty, because Jamie Snow's already served his.
I believe if, say, a safety car happened or something like that, and he still had the penalty hanging over his head, the game will automatically add, I believe it's 20 or 30 seconds to his time.
Yeah, so we'll see how that pans out. Just over
Keane's right up the back of Boak at the moment.
Yeah, he's very close. We're staying with that battle too, because it is the closest one on track. Tara and Graham as well are getting very, very close at the front, but ahead of these two. But Boak's managing to make that BMW very, very wide.
Jamie Snow's only 5 seconds off this battle too, and closing in at a pretty rapid rate.
Yeah, Jamie Snow's got pace, but when he can harness it, he's got pace. He's in clear air at the moment, so these guys are slowing each other up. Snow trying to desperately buy into this.
Knowing Jamie Snow quite well, he is currently just on the absolute limit of what he feels that car can do, and probably actually beyond it a little.
Yep. As we wait to see what happens with Tara.
Tara stayed out again.
Tara stays out again.
Almost spun
Big
it too.
slide there.
Well, that we just saw the tail end of the smoke on the broadcast, but he's ahead of them here.
He's going to have a go on Boak here into the first corner.
Yeah, and Snow's in the background here. Now Keane goes deep under brakes. Harvey with another penalty. So that's going to be a track cut penalty for sure.
Wide at Blanchimont.
And very wide at Blanchimont. And it goes to show you as well, with Harvey having to serve the drive-through penalty for his little infringement, and then having his spin on the exit of the pit, or at the top of Radion, I think it was, he dropped behind Snow, so that spin cost him dearly, because they both had to serve penalties, and the spin cost him significantly. But Boak has now ceded position to Keane, so that's a podium position for David Keane if he can hold on by virtue of the fact that Tara is going to have to serve a drive-through, or if he doesn't, and we get a safety car finish, he's going to cop a post-race penalty, and it will drop him down. It'll actually drop him back behind Jamie Snow.
So Webb crossed the line with 2 minutes and 19 left. So he'll want to. This will probably be a slower lap from him, because he will not want to have to do an extra lap, because he won't make it on fuel.
Well, he can't afford to ease off too much either, because Graham's only 2 seconds behind, and if he goes into fuel saving mode, you don't want to be getting that close for comfort, as Keane goes a bit wide off
presuming that Graham gets a post-race penalty, Tara starts to serve a drive-through, and the two cars behind him, Boak and Keane, who are fighting quite well.
And Keane now, Boak gets back through on Keane, and that was a very, very nice move for position as well. The Keane was very wide off of Pouon and was slightly compromised. Boak got it hooked up nicely, and these guys will go on for another lap. Now, Matt Webb's got 30 seconds left. He's just coming through Blanchimont now. Behind him, Graham to the tune of 1.6 seconds. Tara a further 1 and a bit seconds back of Graham. And 15 seconds on the clock. We're watching the timer now.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see him stomp on the brakes on the main straight to not pass the start-finish line. 7, 6. It's going to be touch and go.
Now, Graham's gone into the... Is that Graham going to the pit? So he couldn't make it.
Fuel. He couldn't
make it. He needed fuel. So, yes... It will be zeros. White flag is in. White flag is in the air. That Tara's now serving his drive-through. Philip Boak goes through to second place. Keane through to third. Snow through to fourth.
Boak's very deep.
Boak gone very deep, and this is.
Keane's got the run.
This brings Snow back into it.
Yeah, well,
if he can just get a hell of a last
Snow's
lap.
got to hope these guys trip over each other, and there's a little bit of rubbing. They're very, very close, and this is as close as you want to be up through here. But somehow Keane prevails, and he stretches the gap a bit more. But this is not over and done with. This fight's going to go to the flag, but Boak has dropped off the back a little bit here. He'll have to make another dive bomb move somewhere in order to get that position back. But look at that, David Keane, 16 position gain from the start of this race. Mind you, by virtue of the fact that close to a quarter of or third of the field is DNF'd. I got through 3 fractions there before I finally got it all done. Boak very, very wide. Boak very, very wide, and that gives Snow the sniff that he needs. Snow potentially could buy into this and get a podium finish.
It's only a second back to Snow here.
Just over
a
a second.
second. Matt Webb's in cruise control out in front. We'll come back to him in a minute, but really this is where the battle is at for second, third and fourth. And Tara just in background there.
If any of these three make a mistake, Tara isn't too far out. He'll be able to get a position as well.
Yeah, he's had that drive-through has been very, very costly for Greg Tara. And Graham having to go in for a splash and dash. Even he's come out ahead of Brock Harvey as well. So that series of penalties for Brock Harvey has not worked out for him. He could have been right up in this battle if he had have behaved himself. But we'll interested in speaking to him post-race to see what happened there. But Boak is very close. A little bit of a love tap. A little bit of love tap on the back here of Keane. He wants through. Boak can smell that second place. He wants the higher position. Doesn't want to settle for the points he gets for third. He wants second. And Can he get a run here? Are they going to trip over each other, and is Snow going to come through? We'll find out in a few seconds' time. Matt Webb's coming up to the final chicane, so he's home and hosed, but this is where it's at. Big congratulations to Matt Webb, but Boak's going to have a look. He's going to the outside, and that's not the spot you want to be. Tara gets a penalty. Boak gives him it on the tap, and Boak's off the road. Boak is off the road, and Snow's gone through. No, Snow's looped it. Snow's looped it going the wrong way. What the hell has happened there? Snow's dropped positions, and so Matt Webb wins this race. Tara is going to come through to second, but he's got another penalty hanging over his head. Boak's going to get third, Snow fourth, Keen fifth, and Keen slides across the line. That was a wild finish.
Keen had gone off, and that gave Snow the spot back, who I hope, yes, he's going to do a burnout for me. Graham, he got in trouble last time.
Graham finishes sixth. Harvey's going to finish seventh, so we wait for Brock Harvey to come through the final chicane now. Now, this will be interesting because with Tara having a penalty over his head, he's been dropped down to sixth in the standings. Brock Harvey will come across the line now and does not make any inroads into Tara. So Tara retains sixth. So just to compound Brock Harvey's woes, as we're watching Matt Swass go very, very wide on the exit of turn 16 as he's coming through to complete his lap. So despite two drive-through penalties and Tara getting a penalty on the last lap, Harvey unable to move up to sixth place, and in fact, unfortunately, has to settle for seventh.
I believe it's a 25-second penalty or thereabouts for a post-race drive-through, because we know that Greg Tara finished a couple seconds ahead of Philip Boak, and he's ended up finishing 23 seconds down on him, and it makes sense because he had a gap of about 7 seconds on Brock Harvey. Brock Harvey served his drive-through, and Tara didn't. So yeah, that's worked out pretty much exactly how it should have.
And Schwass comes down to finish on the lead lap, so he finishes in 8th. Brian Walsh, the first of the runners, 1 lap down. Big Dog on debut finishes in top 10, and Glenn Miles 4 laps down in 11th.
He's still finishing off the race.
He's still finishing off the race, but he's 4 laps down in 11th. But take nothing away from your
amazing final turn, though.
Take nothing away from your race winner. Your race winner, and we didn't cut to him crossing the line, but massive congratulations to Matt Webb. 2 on the bounce in that Nissan. So Sebring last round, now in Spa, and we'll look with eager interest to see if he can make it 3 on the bounce at Road Atlanta in a week's time. But that shakes up the championship picture enormously, and there'll be some sums furiously being done at the moment, I'm sure, by Bagsy and probably Stairs as well, to work out what the point situation's going to be. But what a wild and woolly finish, gents.
That was probably my favourite GT3 race I've joined you guys for yet. That had a little bit of everything the whole way through. I don't think we actually had a dull moment.
No, that last 10 minutes...
Obviously under the first safety car, but even the second safety car, there was so much going on.
That last 10 minutes was absolutely wild. There's plenty of action going up and down the field, and obviously quite a number of guys were on their last warnings for track limits and ultimately cost themselves positions as well. So, but like I said, take nothing away from this man, Matt Webb. He has done himself a great service by now making it 2 wins in a row, and can he equal what Lewis Wedding has done already this season and go for a 3rd in the next round? Wedding will be having something to say about that, I'm sure, but the championship picture is still well and truly shaken up.
Just if you give me a few minutes, I'll bring you the championship standings.
Well, while you do that, we're going to be joined by a couple of drivers that were involved in a few skirmishes in that race. So Jamie Snow and Brock Harvey have made their way in here. So let's go to Jamie first. Jamie, you had a bit of an up and down race. You had a bit of a spin not long after the first safety car came out, and you fought your way back through brilliantly, but you did slide the car a little bit often, and ultimately you had a bit of a moment on the last few turns there as you tried to gain position. So talk us through your various spoils throughout the race.
That was an absolute fiesta. That was just one of the most crazy races I think I've been involved in. You know, like you say, that early spin really sort of, at that point I was tossing up whether to try and just save fuel or whether I should just push hard, try and get positions back and go for a splash and dash at the end. So I kind of ended up 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But the second spin that I had, where I backed it into the wall up at Eau Rouge, that basically ended up fixing my strategy pretty much. And the safety car at the end there, even more so. Not sure exactly what happened at the restart, and that was, I think that kind of benefited me a little bit as well. Obviously I got that off track, which gave me a drive through at the end there, just pushing way too hard, trying to catch Webby up front there. And then the last coming into the last chicane there, I have no idea what was happening. I'm just sort of braking, trying to hit my marks. I'd given up on trying to catch Kino and Boki in front of me, and so I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to hit my mark, get round and settle for fourth place. And then there's just chaos ensued in front of me and behind me, and I think everyone took a dive, and so it was a little bit of a mess, but good fun.
Yeah, it certainly looked good fun from our view. I mean, the last 10 minutes is probably where that race really came alive. There was a bit of, we're trying to work out the strategy throughout most of that race, but certainly when that safety car came out late, which is similar to what happened in Sebring, the race really came alive, and those penalties probably hurt you in the end a little bit. You were on track for a podium place and then had to fight your way back through, and just by virtue of the guys ahead of you squabbling away, that you were able to catch back up, but ultimately just couldn't pull it off at the end.
Yeah, look, I'd consider myself extremely lucky. With all the mistakes that I made and everything like that, to still end up finishing where I did, pretty damn lucky in my mind.
Agreed. Well, one of the other men that was involved in various skirmishes and actually was looking the goods for a while. He probably had a big grin on his face when he led a lap, but probably doesn't have a big grin on his face now, having some late race penalties, if I can get it out. Brock Harvey, talk us through your last 10 or 15 minutes, mate, because it certainly didn't go the way that you were hoping for.
Not too sure what happens under safety car on restart there. Pretty sure that we had some pretty set rules around that, and yeah, got drilled from behind coming out of the chicane. That kind of ruined the race, really. I got the drive through. I knew that I was on my last cut, and all I saw was smoke in front of me, and kind of frame rate just dropped huge. So I bugger it, I'll take the cut. But yeah, then after the contact on the safety car, it wrecked the rear of the car. I just had no grip in the rear, so I got another track cut later through the same corner actually, because yeah, it just wasn't steering at all well. So those are the breaks, I guess. I think considering some of the other results, I'm still not too sure where I finished. I think it was 7th.
Yeah, correct. We've ascertained that by virtue of Tara having a late race penalty, he actually got a track cut very late on the final lap. That's given him a 25-second penalty, and unfortunately it meant that he did finish 7th. He weren't quite close enough to capitalise on getting an extra place, so he finishes 6th and you finish 7th. But nonetheless, in the absence of a number of guys not partaking in tonight's race and also falling off the road, you do gain some points in the overall championship picture.
Which I do have now. Which
Bagsy does have in a few moments, but it still means that the championship is very much alive for the remaining 2 rounds, which is good for everybody that's concerned, and also good for AMS Oz, because it looks like we're going to have another championship go down to the wire.
We've got our race winner in the channel, if you guys, the more professional interviewers would like to send some questions this way.
Well, seeing as you've volunteered now, Scruff, I'm going to let you handle that one.
All right, Mr. Matt W, because that makes me feel better about myself.
No problem.
How did that race play out from where you were? Obviously, with Andy Simpson not finishing the race, that did help you out quite a lot. But across the board, you did perform really well, especially given that your car has taken on a bit more weight, to my knowledge. So how was that race from where you were sitting.
Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate that. It was tough. Obviously, Andy had superior pace, so first of all, commiserations to him. He was quicker than me tonight. He had the pace to win that race. But I figured after the first pit stop, he put about 12 seconds on me, and I thought that he must have not changed tyres. So I'm not sure if that was his issue at the end of the race. But yeah, I figured he hasn't changed tyres. But he was going to roll me anyway. So when he retired, first of all when he dropped down, and then I was able to pass him through the second round of stops. And then from that was good. But then from there it was just a case of managing the gaps to Anthony behind. And I think Jamie was in there as well. But then, to come out of the last stops and then that late race safety car just really mixed things up. It was crazy trying to work out the restart procedure. Hopefully got it right. But as I was just saying in the chat on the server, I was waiting for Matt to call green, but I messed that up because it was actually just going green because I jumped when the game said go, and I was like, oh, hang on, wait, was I supposed to wait for Matt? And then by then everyone was driving past me, and I had to make a few positions back to get back into the lead, which was interesting.
Yeah, with the revised system for the race start and the safety car restarts, we obviously are going to few teething issues, but fortunately it didn't affect you in the end, being able to take out the win. So well done there, and best of luck in the next round, because it looks like you will be at least able to challenge going forwards, going by your first two races.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. It's been good to come in here, and I've taken a liking to these cars. It's the first real league racing I've ever done in Automobilista, so it's been good. And hats off tonight also to the guys with the blue flags. Everybody done a really good job for me getting out of the way. I know that it's not good for them. I've been in that position. It sort of wrecks your race, but everybody put in a really good effort out there, and not a bad word to say about anybody. Everybody done a good job. And yeah, it's been great racing with you guys. So looking forward to it.
Beautiful. Well, 2 on the bounce for Matt Webb, and he has an opportunity next round to make it 3 on the bounce. But before we talk about upcoming races, let's go over to Bagsy for the points situation, because this series now has 2 rounds to go, and it's still a very, very tight points picture.
Yeah, it's very close to the top. Interestingly, it can be won at the next round potentially, with our new championship leader Brock Harvey being 5 points ahead of the previous leaders Greg Nangle and Lewis Wedding. Because they both DNF'd and Brock Harvey scored points, and the people Baker and Stairs in 4th and 5th also didn't start the race, that's given Brock Harvey a massive jump. Even though he only got 7th, he's jumped up to first place on 65 points. So if he wins or comes second in the next race, he will be our champion. So there's the potential, if Brock Harvey does that, he will get to the lead, and he'll do it without a podium. So amazing consistency there from Brock Harvey. Lewis Wedding and Greg Nangle in second, Baker and Stairs 4th and 5th on 57 and 56, Matt Schwass in 6th on 55, Heath Dixon, who didn't participate in this race either, on 54 and 7th. Jamie Snow with his podium there is in 8th, so despite 3 did not starts for Jamie Snow, he is still within striking distance in this championship too. Matt Webb with his second win on the trot is on 49 points, so if the front runners have issues yet again next race, Brock Harvey, Greg Nangle and Lewis Wedding, then he is also in with a shot as well. So very close at the top of the championship. Potentially Brock Harvey can win it next race, but Greg Nangle and Lewis Wedding will be coming back with a vengeance.
Well, if that's not an incentive for Brock to get into the practice for all this week, every single day this week, I don't know what is. But we'll soon find out in this week how that all pans out. Speaking of this upcoming week, your upcoming events for AMS Oz, and Super Series comes to a close on Thursday, the 28th of June, coming up with the last round, round 11 at Mount Panorama, and we always expect a decent turnout when Bathurst is involved. So be sure to tune in for that one. That series has been decided. First and second places in the championship are decided, but there's still plenty going on for the minor placings. GT3, I said it was Road Atlanta, but unfortunately, it's actually Road America by what's on the screen here. So that's next Sunday, 1st of July. And as we said, Matt Webb going for 3 in a row, but if Lewis Wedding has got anything to say about that, he certainly is going in for the kill to get that lead back in the championship with 2 rounds to go. And Supercars makes a return to Thursday nights after following the Super Series, and that will be on Thursday the 12th of July. And we're actually going, by virtue of what's written there, to Montreal in Canada, which is our first international trip, by virtue of the fact we're not actually racing any Australian series or Australian circuits in the real supercars anytime soon. Well, my thanks to Matt Williams and Bagsy for their services tonight. This has been round 7 of the AMS Australia GT3 series. Just like the Formula 3, it's going down to the wire, and we'll see you next weekend for round 8. But until then, as always, please drive safely.